Antenna at the bottom of the sea. In 1964, the research vessel USNS El Tanin was exploring the depths of the Southern Ocean and accidentally took a photo of something incomprehensible. At a depth of 3,900 meters, the camera recorded an object that looked like a radio antenna. What is this? Another lost signal from aliens? The news quickly spread through the newspapers, and everyone decided that this was confirmation of extraterrestrial intelligence. But everything turned out to be not so simple. After a while, scientists found out that this is not an alien technology. In fact, it was a deep-sea sponge that really looked like an antenna from a distance. As it turned out, nature also has its own design style. Bas-reliefs with mechanisms. Sometimes we see faces, animals, or objects in the clouds. This is called pareidolia, when our brain draws familiar images where they actually do not exist. What about space pareidolia? Remember the face on Mars that turned out to be just a mountain? A similar situation happened in Egypt, in the city of Dendera. In an ancient temple, archaeologists discovered a bas-relief that depicts a gas discharge lamp. Did the Egyptians use electricity? In fact, this image combines a flower and a snake, which symbolize stability and fertility. But in the Temple of Osiris, found a helicopter and an airship. But even here there are no surprises. These turned out to be traces of old plaster, which eventually wore off and created such interesting drawings. Quarry skull. The next incredible story is about the famous Piltdown Man. We are going to 1912 in the small village of Piltdown in England. The bones of an ancient man who lived more than 500,000 years ago were found in a gravel pit. But no ordinary man's bones. This skull looked like a mixture of ape and human, like a missing link in evolution. Archaeologists, including the famous Charles Dawson, were delighted. They even named the find after him, Eoanthropus dawsoni. More bones and a fang were found in the quarry, which definitely belonged to this ancient man. Piltdown Man became a celebrity. He was considered the ancestor of modern people. However, in 1953, the truth was revealed. It was all a fake. The skull was painted and made to look like an ancient one, and the jaw belonged to an orangutan. Even the fang was painted. Many suspect Dawson himself of creating this fabrication. There are other suspects, including the famous writer Arthur Conan Doyle. But the mystery remained unsolved. Piltdown Man has become one of the most notorious archaeological hoaxes. As you can see, even scientists can be deceived. Did you believe in this story? Singapore Stone. In front of you is a huge sandstone stone which is several centuries old. It stood at the mouth of the Singapore River, like a staunch guardian of time. On it you can see strange symbols. This is an inscription that could not be deciphered. It may have been written in Old Javanese or Sanskrit. Maybe it was ordered by some powerful madman. This stone is even associated with the legendary strongman of the 14th century named Badang. They say he threw a stone into the river and later stone columns were erected in his honor. But what happened to it next? In 1843, the stone was blown up to widen the passage at the mouth of the river. Only pieces of it remain, and one of them is now in the National Museum of Singapore as a national treasure. This stone is not just an old piece of sandstone. This is the mystery that scientists are trying to solve. The secret that this inscription holds will tell us more about the past and the people who lived in ancient times. Perhaps technology from the future will help us decipher it. Petrified bullet. Mysterious 2,200-year-old bullet found inside stone in Crimea. Yeah, you heard me right, a bullet. In those days, small arms and gunpowder did not yet exist. Researchers discovered it when the stone cracked. How did the bullet end up inside the ancient stone? This find could change the whole history. Could it be that a bullet from the future hit the past and lain in the ground for several millennia? In any case, the artifact is shrouded in mystery and we can only guess what really happened. What do you think? Share your thoughts in the comments. Delhi, purple sapphire. This story begins with a Hindu temple where the mystical Delhi purple sapphire was kept, but it was actually an amethyst. During the Indian Rebellion of 1857, Colonel Ferris took the stone for himself. He did not know that horrors awaited him ahead, loss of fortune and health. And the same thing happened to his son. The writer Edward Heron Allen became the owner of the amethyst in 1890, but bad luck continued to haunt him. He even tried to drown the stone, but to no avail. As a result, the stone, as if stained with blood, ended up in a safe and then in the London Museum of Natural History. No one else dared to own this stone. So if you suddenly come across this stone, be careful. There are curses in archaeology. Don't you believe it? Subscribe to my channel and I will tell you many more amazing stories. Iron in the Bronze Age. And how can one explain the existence of iron in the Bronze Age? After all, after the Stone Age, the Bronze Age follows, and only then the Iron Age. Is this clear evidence of time travel? The answer is simple and at the same time mysterious. Meteorites. Yes, it was in meteorites that ancient people found iron. These space rocks that have fallen to Earth are made of an iron-nickel alloy that hardly rusts. And so the ancient masters began to process this heavenly iron, creating amazing things. One of the famous examples is the dagger of Pharaoh Tutankhamun, made more than 3,300 years ago from meteoric iron. Considered a gift from the king of Mitanni, it can be seen in a museum in Cairo. In the U.S. state of Illinois, they even found iron beads made from a meteorite. Iron was so valuable that only kings and priests used it. Iron in the Bronze Age is like a gift from heaven. Iron lost its sacred meaning only with the advent of the Iron Age. Gnome mummy. Do you know the legends about small creatures that lived underground? The Ainu, the original inhabitants of Japan, and the American Indians described them as undersized creatures that lived in the underworlds. Perhaps this is even the prototype of the mysterious gnomes. In 1932, in the mountains of San Pedro, gold diggers blew up a rock and discovered a strange mummy weighing only 340 grams and 46 centimeters tall. This dwarf was covered in a strange dark substance, and his eyes seemed incredibly bulging. Scientists have long thought who it is: a doll, a mummy of a child, or evidence of some ancient race. Unfortunately, the mummy disappeared, and one can only guess about its fate. Many ufologists consider it a possible proof of a subhuman or even extraterrestrial race. Where this mysterious mummy is now, no one knows. Baghdad Battery. And how do you explain this find from the past which combines the technologies of the present? In 1938, archaeologist Wilhelm Koenig discovered a mysterious earthenware jar in the Iraqi desert. Inside the jug was an iron rod wrapped in copper. It looks like an ancient battery that is 2,000 years old. One scientist even took a copy of such a Baghdad battery, filled it with grape juice, and got electricity. The TV show Mythbusters also tested this theory, and it turned out to be plausible. Could the ancient inhabitants of Iraq have used this jug as a battery? Maybe they just kept the scrolls in it, or was it a cunning trick in the temples? Scientists are still arguing. Unfortunately, the original jug was stolen in 2003, and now we can only guess what it actually served for. Perhaps this jar is the key to the secrets of ancient technologies, or maybe it's just an interesting artifact. Viking sunstones. Imagine the Vikings, mighty seafarers who conquered the seas from Norway to North America. In sunny weather, everything was simple. They looked at the sky and swam where they needed to. But what to do if the sun is not visible? This is where the mysterious sunstone, or solarstein, comes into play. This crystal was not just a beautiful jewel, but also a kind of Viking compass. With it, they could determine where the sun was in the sky, even if it was hidden behind clouds or fog. The researchers puzzled for a long time what kind of stone it was until they realized that it could be Icelandic spar or cordierite. These crystals could split the light and show the path of the sun to within a few degrees. This story tells us that it is not necessary to use the technologies of the future. Our ancestors managed, with the help of primitive objects, to navigate the seas and oceans at any time of the day. The starving of Saqqara. We simply cannot ignore ancient Egypt, the world of pharaohs and pyramids. This civilization has always excited the minds of scientists, but there is one mystery that has not yet been solved, and that is a sculpture called the Starving of Saqqara. It depicts two strange figures with large heads, and no one knows who they are. The language of the inscriptions on the sculpture also remained unknown. This statue is like no other. It remained in a private collection until it arrived at Concordia University in Canada in 1999. Experts from all over the world are still trying to figure out if this is a unique example of ancient art or a cunning fake. So what is it really? The real truth about the Starving of Saqqara is still hidden. Maybe some of you will be able to find out the truth. Penny from Maine. Known as the Goddard penny, this Viking coin was discovered near an old American Indian settlement in Maine in 1956. Could it be that Vikings and Indians once met? The only known Viking site in America is Canada, not Maine. Some scientists think it might be a fake. Does anyone think that Goddard himself or one of the archaeologists put the coin? But so far, this coin is a real mystery that has been worrying researchers for more than half a century. History reminds us that the past is always full of surprises and unknown secrets. Stone Age tunnels. Imagine the maze of tunnels underground in Europe that stretches from Scotland to the Mediterranean. These mysterious tunnels date back to the Stone Age and have been around for 12,000 years. Archaeologists such as Heinrich Kusch are simply amazed by this miracle. The tunnels, only 70 centimeters wide, stretch for hundreds of kilometers underground. There are even rest areas. Who built them and why? Maybe they were shelters from enemies or mystical passages of elves and dwarves. What if someone in ancient times tried to build subway lines? What is it? A mystery of antiquity or something more? The secrets of these tunnels may never be revealed, but they are a reminder of how amazing and incomprehensible ancient civilizations can be. To dig deep underground in the Stone Age without the technology of the future, such a tunnel is an unrealistic task. Pharaoh's Mobile. This is one of the most inexplicable archaeological finds discovered in the tomb of the ancient Egyptian ruler Thutmose III. Archaeologist Amin Fahmy discovered this strange object back in 1923 during excavations in the Valley of the Kings. Then the researchers did not quite understand what it could be and placed this item in a museum. After 100 years, they decided to return to it to carefully study it. The device shocked scientists with its resemblance to a modern mobile phone. It was a thin rectangle of gold and jade engraved with symbols resembling buttons. Were there time travelers who could bring a modern device into the past? After all, often in the tombs of the pharaohs, archaeologists managed to find bas-reliefs on which the ancient Egyptians hold something similar to a modern smartphone in their hands. Some researchers have suggested that it may have been a decorative ornament or a status symbol, but no one has been able to pinpoint its purpose. Materials and manufacturing technology, which were unusual for that era, were especially questionable. At the beginning of the 20th century, photographs of this item and the tomb where it was discovered were immediately leaked to the press. The exotic find has given rise to many theories and speculations. Some claim that this is evidence of the contact of the ancient Egyptians with extraterrestrial civilizations or time travelers. Others consider this a joke or a hoax. Despite numerous studies, the Pharaoh's Mobile remains a mysterious artifact that has no analogs in the history of archaeology. This find continues to inspire scientists for new research and makes us think about the unsolved mysteries of ancient Egypt. Stone softening technology. Do you think it is possible to construct a building out of giant stones weighing up to 150 tons using nothing but round stone hammers? Well, they did it in Peru. Here is the mysterious Sacsayhuaman complex with amazing walls where huge boulders are so perfectly fitted to each other that even a knife can't get between them. Scientists are still puzzled over how this is done. The official explanation sounds incredible. The Incas threshed stones, lifted them, checked how they fit, and chipped off the excess. Wait a minute, they lifted 150-ton stones with hammers? It can't be. Interestingly, the Incas themselves admitted that the buildings were here long before them, and there is also a legend about a liquid that made the stones soft. Mystic, isn't it? One thing is certain, the walls of Sacsayhuaman hide secrets that we can only guess about. Perhaps they are the key to a forgotten civilization about which we know almost nothing. Is the Alaskan Triangle a secret alien base? The Alaska Triangle is a sparsely populated area located between Juneau, Anchorage, and the small town of Barrow. According to official data, more than 20,000 people have disappeared in this analog of the Bermuda Triangle since 1970. Researchers claim strange paranormal activity, and some believe that aliens live here, having set up secret underground bases. By being close to humans, aliens can spy on military technology, which points to a number of strange events and an increase in UFO sightings after World War II. The disappearance of 44 military personnel and a Douglas C-54 aircraft can only confirm this assumption, since search and rescue operations did not yield any results. It would seem that all this is baseless speculation. But in 1995, declassified documents revealed that the highest point of the Alaskan Triangle, Mount Hayes, was mentioned in a top-secret government project called Stargate. The documents not only talk about aliens, but also claim that their base was located under the base of the mountain. No one was physically there, but the CIA used an experimental research technique called remote viewing. The psychic projection method allowed people with supernatural abilities to look into any place without physically leaving the CIA building. While working on the project, the one who stood out the most was a psychic named Pat Price. He became the first to confirm the presence of aliens hiding deep under a mountain in the middle of Alaska. The psychic's predictions were amazingly accurate, as were the drawings of what lay beneath Mount Hayes. The alien base had a clear structure consisting of tunnels, and the CIA agents knew about it. Soon after what he saw, Pat began to fear for his life, telling his loved ones that he had put himself in danger. Unfortunately, the psychic turned out to be right, as he was accidentally pushed in a Las Vegas hotel. The acute pain in the leg was not cause for concern, but the man died the next morning. What is equally astonishing is that the hospital did not notify the relatives of what had happened, but simply cremated the body. The clearest photograph of a UFO. On September 4, 1971, in the northern highlands of Costa Rica, photographer Sergio Loaiza was conducting aerial photography of Lake Cote for the National Geographic Institute. Using a special mapping camera that takes photos at 13-second intervals, he did his job, unaware that one of the frames would be unique. Upon returning to the laboratory, Sergio checked the photographs and noticed in one of them a mysterious round metal object located on the right side of the photograph. It is noteworthy that an object resembling a flying saucer was not detected in either the previous or subsequent frames. For some time, the National Geographic Institute tried to hide the discovery, prohibiting Sergio and his colleagues from talking about the incident. A metallic flying object with a diameter of more than 18 meters was a closely guarded secret. But in 1979, a photograph appeared in an Argentine newspaper and was analyzed by experts. Soon, Costa Rica declared the photo as official confirmation of the existence of a UFO. Despite many years of study and debate among researchers in this area, no one has been able to say what kind of object this is. Skeptics suggested that the object on the right side of the photo was some kind of debris or stain that got onto the film while working with photographs. In 2021, a family friend was able to obtain the original photo in order to scan it using modern technology. This made it possible to digitize the image, making it clearer and more detailed. This allowed skeptics to see the saucer-shaped object at a higher resolution. The updated image allowed us to discard a number of banal assumptions and theories, since this was not a stain or chip on the camera glass. So what was it? Share your guesses in the comments. Burning UFO over Canada. 2018 Quebec. While on a walk and enjoying their vacation, the family noticed a strange object in the sky and decided to film it. An inexplicably shaped object was slowly rotating, glowing with green and bright red lights. Casual spectators were amazed, realizing that they had witnessed something truly strange and unusual. At first glance, it might seem that this is a spaceship burning fuel while gaining altitude. Canada is one of the few countries that officially records UFO data. As they collect data, they publish surprising findings and images, causing skeptics to doubt that humanity is the only superior race in the universe. The object caught in the video has no visible means of movement and exhibits anti-gravity properties, hovering in the air for some time. The absence of wings and exhaust gases proves that this is not an aircraft. Some skeptics tried to justify this with natural phenomena as an optical illusion, but on this day the weather was beautiful and it was clearly noticeable that this object was three-dimensional. A close guess suggests that the object was a hot air balloon with a mirror surface, but is this true? Perhaps we are simply denying the obvious, afraid to admit that aliens exist and they are already among us? Supernatural destruction of Mohenjo-Daro. In 1922, an officer from the Archaeological Survey of India, along with a Buddhist monk, went to the area, which turned out to be a religious monument. Instead of mounds of mud and stones, an entire Bronze Age city with a grid of streets, complex drainage systems, and flush toilets was discovered in Sindh, modern-day Pakistan. The city was part of the Harappan civilization, which reached its peak 5,000 years ago and ceased to exist around 1900 BC. The Mound of the Dead is the legacy of one of the oldest civilizations. The inhabitants of Mohenjo-Daro were in no way inferior to Egypt and ancient Mesopotamia. Once upon a time, this region was inhabited by about 35,000 people, but archaeologists managed to find only 43 skeletons that have survived to this day. The city's disappearance was mysterious, but in 1977 a British researcher discovered evidence suggesting it was caused by a massive explosion. Melted rocks and calcified skeletons suggest that the inhabitants of Mohenjo-Daro died instantly. In 2014, a doctor of mineralogy conducted a series of analyses and tests which suggests a connection between the Harappan civilization and aliens. This is indicated not only by the high level of development of the local residents, but also by the fact that they burned at a temperature of several thousand degrees. There are no volcanoes here, and the technology to reach such temperatures did not exist. Cubic UFO scared the plane pilot. In February 2020, an aircraft on duty in Colombia collided with an unusual air object. Being at an altitude of more than 9 kilometers, the captain took a mobile phone in order to film a metal object moving in a straight line. Something that looks like a cube has nothing in common with a balloon or other objects capable of being at such a height. The distance from the aircraft to the object has not been established, so its estimated diameter is between 3 and 5 meters. Scientists suggest that extraterrestrial civilizations are afraid of a direct collision with humanity and are not ready for direct contact. The object caught on camera may be analogous to a scout who found himself on Earth in order to observe us from the side. Perhaps the aliens are studying us and are slowly preparing to visit our planet. Is it so? Time will tell, but the experts who evaluated the video did not reach a consensus. The object does not have wings and does not leave a trail, which means it is not a man-made device. Skeptics suggest that the metal cube is just a balloon that was inflated at an altitude of more than 9 kilometers, but physicists are convinced that the low temperature would not allow it to rise so high. Are aliens sending signals from space? With the development of modern technologies, humanity began to study not only the surrounding space, but also outermost space. Technological progress does not stand still, and new inventions make it possible to obtain more and more information about how this world works. Scientists have repeatedly received signals from space that are of a strange nature. Some of them took decades to study, which is intriguing and suggests that aliens living somewhere far away are trying to contact us. The strangest and most mysterious signal received from space was a radio signal emanating directly from the center of the Milky Way galaxy. In 2020, astronomers around the world were stumped when an Australian radio telescope identified more than 2 million objects sending signals to Earth. The computer qualified all radio signals except one. An unknown object lurking at the center of our galaxy was emitting powerful radio waves, sending out 6 signals in 9 months. The irregular structure and polarized radio emission were unlike any previous signal. Equally strange is that the object cannot be seen with X-ray or infrared light. 2 powerful radio telescopes observed it all this time, but the object mysteriously disappeared. It would seem that this is where the story ends, but a year later the strange radio signal was repeated and disappeared again a day later. This atypical behavior suggests that this is not a dead star or other space object known to mankind. Stumped, scientists classified the rare signal into a category called radio transients from the galactic center. At the moment, the category includes only 3 objects, the search for which took more than 10 years. The new Square Kilometer Array telescope, which should be commissioned in 2028, will help solve the mystery and possibly recognize the alien signal. Iraqi Ghost. Not long ago, a video published by the famous American ufologist and director Jeremy Corbell blew up the internet space. The so-called Iraqi ghost, shaped like a jellyfish, has caused heated discussion online and attracted the attention of both scientists and avid skeptics. The published recording shows how a ball-shaped object with hanging tentacles flies smoothly and without changing its speed over an American military base located in Iraq. The source claims that after this, the ghost sank into the pond and stayed there for 17 minutes, after which it took off sharply at an angle of 45 degrees relative to the ground, and having gained incredible speed, disappeared from visibility. Unfortunately, the footage only shows a flight over the base, but the soldiers did not notice the object, which indicates its silent movement. Another interesting feature is the change in color of the UFO, becoming gray, white, and then black. All this indicates a change in the temperature of an object that feels great both in water and on land. Scientists suggest that UFOs are the result of the activities of an underwater earthly civilization, about which humanity still knows nothing. Ufologists are convinced that this video confirms the existence of aliens using objects of extraterrestrial origin. Critics are convinced that the Iraqi ghost is hot air balloons flying close to each other. It is impossible to confirm or refute their statements, since the recording was not made while the object was immersed in water. It is noteworthy that this is not the first UFO that has the shape of a jellyfish. In 1977, the famous Petrozavodsk phenomenon occurred when 100 people saw an unidentified object resembling a sea monster. A similar object was spotted in Sao Paulo in 2020, causing shock among temperamental Brazilians. Separately, it is worth mentioning the fact that the recording was filmed in 2018, but the US government diligently hid this information, fearing public disclosure. Giant flames in the sky of South Florida. On February 9, 2021, a South Florida man was returning home from work when he suddenly noticed a flash of light, causing him to stop. Having recorded what was happening on his phone, Stewart witnessed an unusual phenomenon. At some point, a large white plume began to unfold across the sky, becoming larger and larger. This did not shock the worker, but rather amazed him because the phenomenon resembled a giant flame engulfing the night sky of Florida. As you know, this state is popular among UFOs. Since 1998, there have been more than 7,000 alien sightings in South Florida, some of which still defy logical explanation. As for this situation, the glow is as similar as possible to the trace left after the launch of Elon Musk's rockets in 2017. After the space mission began, similar glowing contrails remained in the sky, leading to an obvious conclusion. Despite the mysterious pattern in the night sky, it was probably not aliens, but a test of a hypersonic missile that left a bizarre trail that scared the residents of South Florida.
Has the first battle with aliens already happened? On August 26, 1946, an American scientific expedition set out for the South Pole. It was led by naval officer and explorer Admiral Richard Byrd, who took part in the First World War. The expedition involved 13 ships, 33 aircraft, and almost 5,000 U.S. Navy soldiers. The group under the command of the Admiral returned only 9 months later, reporting that it had to engage in battle with the remnants of the Third Reich and possibly aliens. Flying objects attacked the expedition members and caused significant damage to the American group. Byrd in his report claimed to have seen unidentified devices capable of moving at incredible speeds, changing their location almost instantly. At that time, the Admiral's statements, despite his high status, seemed like fiction. However, in 2018, a satellite image revealed a contrail left by something moving at incredible speeds. The trail stretched across the entire Earth, connecting the South and North Poles, which is about 20,000 kilometers. The maximum duration of preservation of the trace and its shape is 30 minutes, while most of it begins to dissipate after 15 minutes. Based on the data obtained, we can say that the object that left the contrail was moving at a speed of at least 80,000 kilometers per hour, which is 10 times higher than the speed of the fastest aircraft existing at the moment. Computer that is 2,500 years old. A GNC, April 1900. Literally 100 meters from the coast of a small island, divers discovered the site of an ancient shipwreck located at a depth of 45 meters. For 2 years, researchers and archaeologists studied the debris, among which they discovered part of a metal box made of coral and created in the 2nd century BC. This device is the first mechanical computer ever discovered by mankind. The mechanism is 1,500 years older than any similar artifact and contains dozens of gears that control the mechanism. It is assumed that an analog computer could be used to predetermine astronomical events. Ancient Greece, it turns out, had knowledge of mechanics and could create devices, which completely changes our perception of history. It is assumed that the ship set sail from the shores of the island of Rhodes because this place was considered a haven of high technology of that time. The poets of ancient Greece repeatedly mentioned in their works animated statues that could freeze in place or begin to move as if life had been breathed into them. It is quite possible that this was not a literary device, but the first prototypes of robots created by man. The Greeks claimed that they received knowledge from the gods who descended to them from heaven. It is possible that in this way they explained the meeting with aliens who decided to share their technology with humanity. Strange object hovering in the sky for several hours. According to Islamic scholars, there are verses in the Holy Quran that indirectly hint at the presence of extraterrestrial life. Perhaps this is why there is more and more information that residents of Islamic countries such as Pakistan are witnessing UFOs. On January 25, 2022, in Islamabad, a local resident watching the sunset from the roof of his house noticed a mysterious black object hovering in the sky. An unidentified thing, more reminiscent of a flying stone, was motionless for several hours. Changing its shape over time, the object became like a triangle. It is noteworthy that the flying object did not emit or reflect light, completely freezing at an altitude of about 500 meters. The local resident was shocked and watched the object with interest, filming it on his phone as he had never seen anything like it. Experts who watched the video are skeptical about the discovery. Pakistan is a country with high military potential that is actively developing unmanned aerial devices. It is likely that what was seen was a loitering munition or a drone performing a test flight. Despite the fact that the discovery was made in 2022, the video is of rather poor quality. This does not allow experts to make an unambiguous verdict, leaving a chance for the extraterrestrial origin of the mysterious object.
Monolith in the middle of the desert. In November 2020, in the Red Rock Desert of southern Utah, a helicopter crew and biologists were counting livestock when they noticed something startling. Approaching the mysterious object, they discovered a large, shiny silver object located in a canyon inaccessible to humans. Utah authorities tried to keep the discovery a secret, but soon data about it was leaked on social networks. People struck by the object called it the Utah monolith, a remnant of aliens. A mysterious metal monument that found itself in the middle of the desert has become the subject of fantasies and the rich imagination of people who believe in the existence of more intelligent civilizations living on other planets. It was assumed that this monolith was left by an alien spaceship so that they could contact us. Many were convinced that the monolith was built from alien building materials. The materials have unique properties that are not found in nature on our planet. The metal and ceramic composite is capable of absorbing radar waves. It is known that alien ships with anti-gravity properties can have a similar alloy. Some believe that the US government not only knows about these materials, but is also using the remains of alien ships to create the next generation of weapons. Experts carefully checked the monolith to determine the type of metal and also tried to find cavities in the mysterious object. Despite all the theories and speculation on social networks, scientists are convinced that the monolith was created by man and perhaps placed in the canyon only to become a manifestation of the beauty of a work of art. Friendship between the inhabitants of ancient Egypt and aliens. The topic of the connection between ancient Egypt and UFOs is a subject of interest to many researchers and paranormal enthusiasts. Many facts remain speculation, but there are also details that defy logical explanation. In some temples and pyramids, you can find drawings reminiscent of modern ideas about UFOs. The most famous example is the image on the walls of the Temple of Ramesses II at Abu Simbel. On one of the walls, researchers found an image of a flying saucer with a round shape and strange aerodynamic characteristics. Other evidence includes numerous papyrus records about UFOs. One of them is translated as follows: "And a circle of fire appeared in the sky. It had no head, but a terrible stench came out of its mouth. Its body was huge. It was voiceless." A little scary, isn't it? Similar records belong to a chronicler who lived 3,500 years ago. He claimed that the sky was covered with fiery discs, but the pharaoh did not chicken out and did not allow the soldiers to flee, after which the flying objects disappeared in an instant. Concepts such as winged shields and discs of fire appear repeatedly in ancient Egyptian written religious sources. Iron was practically unmined in ancient Egypt and was a rare metal, but writings often mention iron thrones, scepters, and clothing intended for the pharaoh. The sun god was dressed in metal and sat on a throne of iron and fire, which also sounds quite strange. The Abydos hieroglyphs discovered in the hall of the funeral temple of Pharaoh Seti deserve special attention. Here, ufologists noticed a helicopter, a submarine, a glider, and an airship. For a long time, photographs of the find were considered falsified, but soon their authenticity was confirmed. There were suggestions that the inhabitants of ancient Egypt were able to look into the future, while other scientists believed that aliens traveled in time and simply told them about the events of the 20th century. Skeptics categorically deny such ideas, believing that the images were the result of the superposition of two hieroglyphic inscriptions, which suffered destruction of the plaster between them. There is another, no less amazing drawing where a flying disc drops an aerial bomb, but critics here have their own logical explanation.
Secret UFO video hidden by the U.S. government. On November 23, 2019, near the southern border between Arizona and Mexico, Department of Homeland Security agents flew aircraft to locate and arrest smugglers transporting illegal substances into the United States. At some point, their infrared camera captured something that had a rather strange shape. A mysterious object visually reminiscent of a rubber duck amazed observers and then the American government. In September 2021, a secret video was given to an expert studying aliens. After receiving the video from the Department of Homeland Security, Andy Marshall was shocked to see an object that resembled a rubber duck. First appearing on the internet, the video amazed viewers with the fact that the unknown object is about 2 meters long and moves without any wings or traces of exhaust gases. An object resembling a duck flew in a certain direction for about an hour, and the video of the official federal agency does not allow one to think that this was a montage. The ufology community takes the video extremely seriously, believing that it proves the existence of UFOs. Experts who analyze the recording also differ in their opinions. It is known that unidentified flying objects have common behavioral characteristics, including speed, camouflage, and altitude. As for the so-called rubber duck, it moved too slowly, covering only 15 kilometers in half an hour. Such wind speeds are normal in this area, so it is possible that the secret UFO video is just an object that was picked up by air currents. UFO in Roswell, the beginning of a government conspiracy. On June 24, 1947, a pilot was flying over the Cascade Mountains of Washington state while searching for a crashed military plane. At some point, he noticed 9 crescent-shaped objects flying in formation at an altitude of more than 3 kilometers at a speed of 1,900 kilometers per hour, which at that time seemed unrealistic. Arnold Kenneth was the first to describe unidentified flying objects as saucers. The media learned about this and coined the phrase flying saucer, which later became an integral part of the main modern mystery of mankind. 2 weeks later, on July 7, 1947, a rancher in Roswell contacted the sheriff reporting strange debris. He had heard a story about flying saucers and suggested that one of them might have crashed during a recent storm. After receiving the debris, the sheriff turned it over to the Army Air Base. Soon, the military arrived at the ranch, which began a series of stunning events. Within 24 hours, the authorities completely changed their attitude towards the discovery, saying that the journalists had made a mistake and that what happened had nothing to do with a UFO. In 1978, the Roswell UFO crash became a popular topic. Again, the former military man admitted that the logical explanations were a cover-up and the photographs were staged. He claimed that the real wreckage was replaced to hide the existence of aliens. Those participating in the search knew for sure that it was an extraterrestrial spacecraft, but could not tell people about it. Curious scientists found several more retired military personnel, and they all confirmed the fact of the UFO crash. Skeptics believe that they lied for the sake of a fee, but no one has yet been able to refute or confirm that the U.S. government hit a crashed alien spaceship. To believe in UFOs or not, everyone decides for themselves. Some facts of extraterrestrial civilization are still beyond doubt, forcing us to accept a new reality. At the same time, a Pentagon UFO hunter and former head of the Anomalous Phenomena Investigations Office gave an interview that cannot be ignored. Sean Kirkpatrick admitted that his office has not found any real evidence regarding alien origins. In addition, he denies government conspiracies to hide evidence of the existence of aliens. At the same time, U.S. Air Force veteran David Grush gave a scandalous interview confirming that he participated in hiding the bodies of aliens and extraterrestrial vehicles. Which of them speaks sincerely and which is afraid to admit the truth? Time will tell, but you can share your opinions in the comments.
The Roman emperor became a woman. There are many stories about the reign of the Roman Emperor Heliogabalus, who reigned from 218 to 222 AD. The North Hertfordshire Museum in Hitchin, UK, which houses a coin associated with the emperor, has decided to use the feminine pronoun she when referring to Heliogabalus. This is based on the records of the Roman historian Dio Cassius, who claimed that the emperor preferred female address. "Do not call me master, for I am a lady," said Heliogabalus, according to Cassius. However, there is an opinion that Cassius Dion was biased towards the emperor and deliberately distorted his description. References to makeup and other aspects of Heliogabalus's appearance may have been deliberately exaggerated to undermine his authority. Many historical sources about the emperor make comments about the dubiousness and provocative information about him. What do you think about this? Which famous ancient character will modern historians change gender? Write your opinion in the comments under the video. UFO on the cover of an 18th century book. The discovery of an image of a UFO on the cover of a book by Johann Funk, published in 1716, has caused widespread controversy among ufologists. This image, depicting a classic flying saucer surrounded by bright lightning, is seen by many as confirmation that alien visitors visited Earth as early as 300 years ago. Despite controversy over whether alien visits actually occurred in the 1700s, the find confirms that people of the time were also interested in the idea of extraterrestrial civilizations. As always, people are divided into types. Some believe in UFOs, others are skeptical about such assumptions. Ufologists wonder about the technological development of aliens. Assuming that they actually visited Earth in the 18th century, how did their technology remain unchanged for 3 centuries? This refers to the shape of an alien ship. Found the place where the Book of Deer was written. Archaeologists in Scotland have discovered a long-lost monastery that is about 1,000 years old. The site appears to be associated with the creation of the Book of Deer, one of the oldest surviving copies of Gaelic writing. The Book of Deer is a unique 10th century collection of gospel texts containing records in Latin, Old Irish, and Gaelic, now housed in the Cambridge University Library. It contains the Gospel of John, fragments of other Gospels, as well as historically significant records written in Gaelic. The site where the monastery once stood is located in Aberdeenshire, near the village of Mintlow. Archaeologists suggest that it was here that the unique records of the Book of Deer were created, and excavations in 2022 confirm this assumption. The excavation site uncovered post holes dating from the same period as the Gaelic entries in the book. In addition, finds include medieval pottery, glass shards, personal items, and game boards indicating the existence of a monastery complex here. Where have all the trees gone? I will tell you about the importance of protecting our nature using the example of one island. Easter Island, located in the Southeast Pacific Ocean and famous for its unique statues, appears to us in a completely different light today. This island was once covered with lush green forest, but with the arrival of man it lost its original appearance. The first inhabitants of the island were the Polynesians who settled here, despite the distance from the nearest continent, Chile. At one time, the population of the island reached 15,000 people, which with its area of 160 square kilometers amounted to 94 people per square kilometer. The main environmental disaster for the island was the deforestation of the unique palm trees Pascalococos disperta. Gradually, settlers destroyed the forest to make way for agriculture and canoe building. With deforestation, soil erosion began, which led to its impoverishment and degradation, completely depriving the island of fertility. After deforestation, the soil left in place became fragile and vulnerable to tropical rainfall, losing nutrients. This resulted in Easter Island losing most of its endemic species, with the exception of the sedge Serpis californicus. Today we have before us an example of how a careless attitude towards nature can lead to irreversible consequences. However, work on reforestation has already begun on Easter Island, which gives hope for its revival. Ancient paintings of UFOs. Recently, scientists often come across images of circles and triangles on the walls of ancient temples and caves. It may seem mundane, but the presence of flying objects in medieval religious paintings is surprising. I will show you 9 paintings that, according to ufologists, depict alien objects. The Annunciation with Saint Emetius, 1486, painting by Carlo Crivelli. The ray of light from heaven in the picture is traditionally interpreted as a divine broadcast, but some ufologists see a UFO in this image. The Crucifixion of Christ, 1350, painting from the Serbian monastery of Visoki Dekani. The picture shows 2 objects in the air that look similar to aircraft. The official version says that these are the moon and the sun, although in the Christian tradition, they are not deified. The Ascension of Christ, 1710, the work of Arent de Gelder, stored in Cambridge. It depicts a disc-shaped object illuminating John the Baptist and Jesus Christ. Some believe that the artist may have conveyed hidden knowledge about UFOs. Madonna with Saint Giovannino of 15th century, author Domenico Ghirlandaio. The painting shows a flying object above the Madonna's shoulder, which is pointed at by a man with a dog. Tapestry, Triumph of Summer, 1538, created in Bruges, kept in the Bavarian Museum in Germany. The tapestry depicts three disc-shaped objects which ufologists interpret as UFOs. The Miracle of Snow, 1428-1432, work by Masolino da Panicale. The painting depicts an event from 4th century Rome where disc-shaped objects are visible in the air. Israel, Trust in the Lord, 17th century. Painting from the Dominican monastery in Sighisoara, Transylvania. It shows a giant disc-shaped object above a burning church. Glorification of the Sacrament of the Eucharist, 1600, author Bonaventura Salimbeni. The painting depicts Jesus Christ and God the Father with a globe, which some researchers interpret as a time control panel. The Crucifixion of Christ, 13th century. Kept in the Svititskovely Temple in Mitskata, Georgia. On the sides of the cross there are objects with human faces, which ufologists consider to be confirmation of the extraterrestrial origin of Jesus Christ. As you may have noticed, all these paintings were painted in completely different parts of the planet, but the objects are to some extent similar to each other. Accidental find on the school playground. In England, in Brownstone, a 13-year-old school student made an amazing discovery while walking in the schoolyard. At first she thought the find was an ordinary 5-pence coin, but it soon became clear that it was a real treasure dating from the reign of William the Conqueror around 1069. This unique treasure was found by accident. Earlier, workers were replacing a lamppost on the school grounds and probably dug it to the surface. The girl found an object that seemed like an ordinary coin and showed it to the history teacher. He started looking for information on it and immediately realized that they had found something truly ancient. Experts from Leicestershire County Council confirmed the authenticity of the find. It appears that at the time the coin was in use, the site of the present school was either farmland or woodland, with a nearby road linking Leicester to other cities. For a farmer or worker, losing such a coin would mean a great loss because it was of great value. Treasures of Atlantis under the Sphinx. Egyptologist Roman Orikoff, a member of the International Association of Egyptologists, spoke about the low probability of discovering secret halls and treasures of Atlantis under the Egyptian pyramids. He recalled that the pyramids have been studied for centuries, and if there was something there, scientists would have found it long ago. The theme of secret chambers, and although excavations have been attempted in the past, nothing similar has been discovered. Now, the Egyptian authorities prohibit such research, which confirms the absence of hidden rooms. The Egyptologist also focuses on the difference in the concept of treasure between modernity and the past. For the ancient Egyptians, who lived in conditions where the main clothing was a loincloth, modern ideas about treasures do not correspond to reality. Separately mentioned is the theory of Egyptologist Farouk Elbaz about the natural origin of the Great Sphinx. Construction expert Fyodor Vasiliev considers it logical, noting that the main material of the sculpture is limestone, which in itself is not very durable. In his opinion, erosion could only form general outlines, and further detailing was carried out by ancient craftsmen. I told you about this in the previous video. Acheulean chopper with fossilized clam. A unique hand chopper was found in England dating back to the Acheulean era about 1.95 million years ago. This artifact is interesting because of the fossilized mollusk on its surface. Scientists from the University of Cambridge examined it and came to the conclusion that the tool is no different in shape and manufacturing method from other Acheulean hand choppers discovered in Britain. The dimensions of the hand chopper are 13 x 8 x 3, 5 centimeters. It was previously assumed that the ancient master left the mollusk fossil because of its aesthetic value. However, the researchers believe that it would be impossible to do this due to the fragility of the chopper material. Fast dragons. Scientists from an international team discovered in Mongolia the remains of a unique species of dinosaurs that were distinguished by an unusual sleeping position reminiscent of modern birds. These fossils, dating back 71 million years, were found in the Barun-Goyo Formation in the Gobi Desert. It was previously assumed that the finds belonged to flightless birds of the family of small theropods Alvarezsauridae. But careful analysis of the bones allowed scientists to reclassify the remains as Maniraptor dinosaurs. The scientific community even gave them a new name, Jaculinicus yarui, which means fast tiny dragon. These dinosaurs measured about 1 meter in height and weighed approximately 30 kilograms. A giant complex of ancient settlements. Using modern technology, archaeologists from University College Dublin, together with Serbian and Slovenian colleagues, have made a significant discovery. They discovered many previously unknown Bronze Age settlements in the southern Carpathian Basin near Serbia. Analysis of satellite images and aerial photography made it possible to reconstruct the ancient landscape and discover a network of megaforts, huge prehistoric structures. These megaforts, previously known from sites such as Gradiste Ios, Kanad Palota, Santana, and Cornesti Iarkuri, were previously considered isolated. However, new research has shown that they actually form a complex network. In its heyday, tens of thousands of people could live here. These sites, located along the Tisa River, were discovered in an area where almost all settlements are within 5 kilometers of each other. Scholars believe that local communities interacted peacefully with each other and were important centers in Europe during the Mycenaean, Hittite, and New Kingdom Egyptian eras. The mystery of a vanished ancient Roman city. Archaeologists in Italy have made an impressive discovery at the site of the ancient Roman city of Claterna, known as the Pompeii of the North. Over 3,000 coins and 50 gems were discovered on the territory of this forgotten city, many of which are decorated with images of the deities of ancient Rome. This place, according to the Deputy Minister of Culture of Italy, is magical. Previously, a forum, mosaic streets, and Roman baths were found here, and now excavations have yielded thousands of silver and bronze coins, as well as precious stones engraved with deities and architectural elements. Notable among the coins is the quinarium, a rare silver coin from the Roman Republic dating back to 97 BC, which helps establish the age of the finds. It depicts a winged Nike on a shield, which may symbolize military victories and connections with Roman power. Scholars believe that Claterna was not just a city, but also a center of pilgrimage and trade, with close ties to Rome. There may have been a workshop in the city that produced coins and gems with unique engravings.
The oldest parcel has found its addressee. In 1913, the 20-year-old son of a Berlin baker decided to test how far a bottle thrown into the Baltic Sea could float. Inside, he placed 2 stamps and a postcard with a request to return it if found. 100 years later, in 2014, Conrad Fischer from Kiel found this bottle while fishing. Inside were stamps and a worn postcard from Richard Plotz. After investigation, it was possible to contact Plotz's granddaughter, Angela Erdmann, for whom this message became an important family artifact. This bottle became part of the exhibition at the Hamburg Museum. The chances that it would survive at sea seemed slim, but a miracle happened. The history of bottle mail goes back to antiquity. According to legend, the Greek philosopher Theophrastus in 310 BC used it to prove the connection between the Atlantic and Mediterranean seas. In Britain until the 18th century, it was considered a crime to break such bottles and read their contents. And what about you? Have you ever found a letter in a bottle or sent one yourself? Share in the comments below the video. UFO in the USSR. At the end of the USSR and after its collapse, UFOs became a frequent topic of discussion. Residents regularly reported strange objects in the sky, special shows were shown on television, and urban myths circulated among people. Some UFO evidence involved secret missile tests that the general public was unaware of. In the 70s to 80s, stories about UFOs spread in the USSR. There were legends about a UFO crash in Yakutia in the 70s, a UFO explosion on the Kola Peninsula in 1981, and its destruction by a nuclear installation in Kazakhstan in 1983. Another story tells about mushroom pickers who allegedly photographed the interior of a flying saucer and then their traces were lost. There are even photographs that supposedly prove a UFO crash in the USSR, but upon closer examination they raise doubts. Soviet UFOs were more likely a manifestation of mass self-hypnosis rather than evidence of extraterrestrial civilizations. There have also been cases in the United States when UFOs were caught on video, including those filmed by the military. For example, in July 2019, an unidentified object was spotted near the USS Omaha. The Pentagon suggests that UFOs may be of extraterrestrial origin. Even astronauts on the ISS observed strange objects, but often these turned out to be satellites. In the United States, there is laser equipment capable of creating plasma images that are sometimes mistaken for UFOs. But even with all these explanations, some cases remain a mystery. Buddha statue in Egypt. As part of a joint American-Polish archaeological expedition, scientists made a startling discovery at Berenice, an ancient Roman-era Egyptian port city on the Red Sea. During the excavations, researchers found a marble statue of Buddha almost a meter high. The Buddha is depicted holding his robe in one hand, while the other part of the statue is missing. The background of the statue is decorated with a mandorla, symbolizing the enlightened mind with traced rays of light. In addition, there is a blooming lotus at the base. The dating of the artifact indicates the one Sate II in centuries AD. This find provides evidence of commercial relations between Egypt and India in ancient times. Such connections may have begun even before the 4th century BC. Another prince of ancient feet. Archaeologists in South Africa have discovered footprints that could change our understanding of the daily lives of early people. The footprints discovered at Kleinkrans may have been dated to between 79,000 and 148,000 years ago. They have features that indicate that people of this era used shoes. Why did scientists conclude that it was shoes? The absence of toe prints and the presence of clear edges indicate that the person was not barefoot. The footprints may have belonged to ancient hominids of average height. The researchers recreated the scenario using sand sandals to see if they would leave similar marks. The results were convincing. The sandals created similar marks, especially on wet sand. This conclusion may seem trivial, but it has profound historical implications. In those days, a traumatic wound on the foot could have been a deadly threat. Shoes could serve not only as protection from sharp objects, but also as a precaution against environmental hazards. However, despite all the evidence, scientists are in no hurry to confirm that it was shoes, given the difficulty of interpreting the prints and the lack of actual samples of such ancient shoes.
This discovery changed archaeology. The 600-year-old Nebra sky disk remains one of the most enigmatic archaeological finds. Inscribed on the UNESCO Memory of the World Register in 2013, this artifact is striking in its design and complex manufacturing technology. Recent research conducted in Germany has shown that the disk was made using a 10-stage hot forging process. Each stage involved heating the metal to 700 degrees Celsius and stress-relieving treatment. This data was obtained using modern techniques such as X-ray spectroscopy and microstructural analysis. Attempts to reproduce the technology have shown that the ancient original methods were superior to modern processing methods. The Nebra sky disk is not only a unique artifact but also proof of the advanced metallurgy knowledge of the time. Cave paintings of Valcamonica. In the Valcamonica Valley located in northern Italy, there are over 200,000 cave paintings created by various cultures over the past 8,000 years. These engravings provide unique evidence of ancient civilizations, depicting their rituals, social structure, and daily life. However, among the many traditional images of animals, dancing people, and symbols, there are several engravings that are of particular interest to researchers. Some of them look like figures dressed in strange costumes, reminiscent of spacesuits with details similar to helmets, antennas, and other devices. These drawings have given rise to much speculation. Some argue that they may have been created after contact between the ancient inhabitants of Valcamonica and alien civilizations. Such theories often rely on the appearance of these figures, arguing that ancient people may have depicted extraterrestrial beings or even astronauts they encountered. However, most scholars are inclined to believe that these engravings may represent ritual or symbolic images, perhaps associated with religious beliefs or rituals of the time. Here, scientists always have one opinion. If a find cannot be explained, it means it is connected either with something extraterrestrial or with an ancient ritual. Gold necklaces in an unusual place. At the end of August, in the province of Asturias, Spain, Sergio Narciandi accidentally discovered a unique piece of gold jewelry while working on a pipeline in the municipality of Cavandi. At first glance, Sergio realized the value of the find. In front of him was an ancient torque, a neck decoration symbolizing high social status. Soon, archaeologists arrived at the discovery site. These artifacts, experts said, could be key to understanding the Iron Age, revealing the secrets of pre-Roman societies. These decorations will help us delve deeper into the cultural, technological, and social aspects of that era. Estimating the age of the jewelry, scientists suggest that they are about 2,500 years old. Torques, traditionally made from precious materials, are most often associated with Celtic and Germanic nobility. Experts noted the high level of craftsmanship inherent in these ancient jewelry, which opens new horizons for the study of artifacts of this time. Parasite eggs, 200 million years old. Modern parasites are known to play a key role in ecosystems. However, paleontologists from Mahasaracham University, Thailand, have made breakthroughs in understanding their historical presence. After examining the fossilized excrement of ancient animals, they found ancient parasites in them, including Ascaris roundworms. The discovery follows reports of the revival of an ancient worm from Siberian permafrost by Russian scientists. Working with coprolites dating back about 200 million years, scientists discovered structures consistent with 5 types of parasites. Interest in these fossils stemmed from locals in Thailand who considered them good luck talismans due to their unusual shape. This is the first known example of parasites in a terrestrial vertebrate from the late Triassic period in Asia. It is also one of the few records of preserved roundworm eggs in coprolites of ancient animals. These parasites were found in the excrement of what appeared to be a phytosaur or other crocodile-like reptile from the Triassic period. The find strengthens our understanding of how parasites interacted with their host in ancient times.
Mysterious mask. A strange iridium artifact found in Florida challenges traditional ideas about ancient civilizations. According to researchers, this object is 12,000 years old and is made of iridium, a metal that is extremely rare on Earth and most often found in meteorites. The artifact is striking in its delicacy and skillful processing, which suggests that the ancient craftsmen had technologies that were significantly ahead of their time. An image is engraved on the surface of the object, reminiscent of the deity Viracocha, known in the Inca culture as the creator of all things. According to legend, Viracocha came from Lake Titicaca, bringing light and knowledge. This image may be evidence of a connection between ancient peoples and an extraterrestrial civilization, which would explain the use of rare meteorite material to create this artifact. Historians believe that this object was stolen by Spanish conquistadors in 1715 and taken away on the ship La Concepcion. The ship sank in a storm, leaving much of its cargo, including other artifacts, on the ocean floor. The mask washed up on the beach and is believed by experts to be just a small part of the $5 billion lost treasure.
The Fat Lady of Saliagos. The Fat Lady of Saliagos represents a unique testimony to the ancient culture that flourished in the Cyclades Islands during the Neolithic era. Its discovery revealed many secrets about the lifestyle, religious practices, and artistic traditions of this ancient society. Saliagos, despite its small size, was of key importance in the early history of the Aegean region. In addition to its role as a connecting isthmus between Antiparos and Paros, it was a center of production and trade, as evidenced by finds of obsidian tools in excess of local needs. Ceramic vases discovered on the island provide insight into the design and style of the era. Their patterns and shapes reflect creativity that may have had religious or cultural significance to the people of Saliagos. Overall, the discoveries at Saliagos provide invaluable information about the ancient world of the Aegean region. Early Iron Age cremation burial. During the expedition to Hallstatt-Salzburg in Austria, many new finds were discovered. The most remarkable of these is a cremation burial containing well-preserved bronze objects. While studying the metal finds, scientists discovered surprisingly well-preserved remains of fabric. Hallstatt is famous for its salt mining, dating back to prehistoric times and giving its name to the Hallstatt culture, a people who emerged in the late Bronze Age. The burial is located in an Iron Age cemetery first opened in 1846. In 1863, archaeologists discovered more than 1,000 graves at this site. Among the finds are a ribbed hand ring, spirals of thin wire, and a bronze blade with traces of a wooden handle. The finds were tightly packed into the grave. Archaeologists have identified traces of fabric on the spiral discs, which may provide the first archaeological evidence of the use of textile bags for cremated remains. Art and relics with cosmic features. Over the centuries, humanity has created art and relics which sometimes represent figures with unusual cosmic features. These images have become the subject of discussions and theories related to the possibility of contacts with extraterrestrial civilizations. One of the most famous examples is the ancient images in the Indian Vedas, which describe flying machines known as vimanas. While most researchers believe they represent mythological or symbolic images, some claim they are evidence of ancient technology or even extraterrestrial intervention. In numerous ancient cultures from Egypt to Central America, statues and reliefs have been found that depict figures with unusual helmet-like headdresses or other cosmic attributes. These images are often associated with gods or great rulers who could descend from heaven. Another example is the art of the ancient Sumerians. Some of these images represent creatures that some theorists argue could be interpreted as extraterrestrial. However, most archaeologists and art historians argue that such images are the result of religious beliefs, mythology, or symbolic art rather than evidence of contact with extraterrestrial civilizations. Whatever the true meaning of these images is, they serve as a reminder of the richness and depth of human imagination and our desire to understand and interpret the unknown around us. Elongated skulls. The mystery of the elongated skulls of Paracas continues to stir heated debate among scientists and researchers. These elongated skulls, discovered by archaeologist Julio Tello in 1928 on the Paracas Peninsula in Peru, date back approximately 3,000 years. The skulls are unusually shaped, and although similar finds have been found all over the world, from Rome to the Caucasus, the Paracas skulls are particularly surprising. It is believed that the elongated shape of the skulls was the result of deliberate manipulation, such as tying special bands or boards around the heads of infants. This process, known as cranial deformation, was common among many ancient cultures. Even today, it is practiced by some African tribes. However, it remains a mystery what exactly motivated people everywhere to engage in this practice. One popular hypothesis is that people sought to imitate the gods or guests from heaven who, according to legend, had elongated heads. Another version says that such a shape of the skull could enhance the perception of cosmic energy, which allegedly contributed to spiritual or intellectual development. The peculiarity of the Paracas skulls lies not only in their shape, but also in their volume and structure. Research shows that the volume of the skull is larger than that of ordinary people, and the structure of the bones is different. These anomalies give rise to theories about the extraterrestrial origin of the owners of such skulls. The skulls may belong to representatives of another race or hybrid creatures about which we know little yet. Climate of the ancient world according to wooden tablets. Researchers have uncovered the secrets of the climate of the past thanks to an unusual source: ancient mummies. In Roman times, wooden tablets were attached to mummies, and it was these small details that turned out to be the key to unraveling the weather of those times. It wasn't just names engraved on them. The rings on the tree turned out to be a living chronicle of the climate. Drought years, narrow rings on the tree become their witnesses. But to get a complete picture of ancient weather, one tablet is not enough. Fortunately, many such artifacts have survived. Museums around the world hold thousands of them, and it's interesting that they are from different tree species. The latest study took 300 of these ancient climate records. This helped scientists get closer to understanding the weather conditions of the eastern Mediterranean in the areas of what is now Lebanon, Greece, and the Nile River. However, the date of each climate change remains a mystery. Perhaps the answers lie in radiocarbon dating. Remains of an ancient market. In Northampton's Market Square, archaeologists have discovered unique finds that open new pages in the city's history. Among them are a possible punishment post and traces of an unknown market hall. A team from London's Museum of Archaeology found fragments of medieval shoes, textiles, ceramics, and animal bones. In the center of the square, they found a stone building, possibly a market chamber. Another building may predate the creation of the market in 1236. The discovered structures may be depicted on a 17th century map. In the south of the square, they found the Great Conduit, built by Edward IV. They also found a medieval pillar that could have been used for punishment. After the research, the structures will be closed and the found objects will be stored in the museum.
A mystery in the Amazon jungle. Padre Carlos Crespi Croce, an Italian missionary who spent most of his life serving in Ecuador, became one of the most enigmatic figures of the 20th century thanks to his extraordinary collection of artifacts. Working with the Shuar tribes in the Ecuadorian jungle, he acquired many ancient objects that some researchers believed could be evidence of an ancient, highly advanced civilization, and perhaps even contact with extraterrestrial intelligence. Crespi's collection included strange metal plates engraved with symbols reminiscent of ancient writing, figurines depicting creatures with unusual features, and objects that many described as technologically sophisticated. Of particular intrigue were metal reliefs depicting creatures with elongated skulls, stars, and scenes reminiscent of space travel. Interestingly, there were no known civilizations in the region that could produce such complex items. Rumors about the collection spread after some visitors, including researchers, claimed to see evidence of extraterrestrial influence in it. Some of the artifacts were said to be made of metals that could not be identified. Crespi, however, was not looking for fame. He claimed to accept these items from local tribes in exchange for aid and food. The collection's connection to extraterrestrial civilizations becomes even more interesting when considering the mystery of the tunnels beneath Ecuador that are the subject of legend. The tunnels, known as the Teos system, are said to contain a library of metal books. Some theorists suggest that these tunnels were a base for an ancient race, possibly of extraterrestrial origin. The Crespi collection could have been part of these treasures. Unfortunately, after the death of Padre Crespi in 1982, the collection was destroyed by fire or stolen, and its fate remains unclear. What do you think? Could a missionary become the custodian of traces of an ancient space civilization hidden in the Amazon jungle?
Tales of the Star People among the Indians. In the culture of many indigenous peoples of America, there are legends about star people, who, as these legends say, arrived on Earth from outer space. These mythological tales embody ancient encounters between the continent's indigenous people and creatures from distant stars. Such stories are especially vivid in the culture of the tribes of the plateau of North America. According to their beliefs, star people not only visited Earth but also passed on knowledge to the Indians, helping them adapt to life, teaching them farming, healing, and even spiritual practices. One of the legends tells how the star people descended to Earth on sparkling silver discs, attracting the attention of the Indians with their light and sound. These newcomers were friendly and imparted wisdom and knowledge to the tribe. There are also legends that some of the Indians went into the sky with the star people and returned back, enriched with new knowledge and experience. Interestingly, these tales share similarities with myths from other cultures around the world. However, while for most researchers these stories are just myths born of human imagination and the need to understand the universe, others argue that they may provide evidence of ancient encounters with extraterrestrial life.
Exposing the aliens from Peru. The world community was shocked by the news about mummies from the Nazca Desert, presumably of alien origin. After a high-profile presentation in Mexico, many media outlets paid attention to them. But according to Peru's Minister of Culture, Leslie Urteaga, things weren't that simple. These remains, she said, date back to the pre-Hispanic period. As it turned out, these are ancient bone remains and not aliens. But journalist and ufologist Jaime Mawson claims the opposite. He is confident that the 60 centimeters remains, which are about 1,000 years old, are aliens. The secret of these mummies has been discussed at the state level for many years. Urteaga admitted, "We knew about this discovery much earlier." However, in Peru, there is still no clear understanding of what kind of mummies these are. The intrigue is aggravated by statements from scientists. Perhaps these are real ancient mummies, fragments of which once fell into the hands of scammers. We learned about amazing archaeological discoveries and mysterious traces that aliens could have left in ancient times. But whatever it really is, such research reminds us of the richness and complexity of our history. Stay tuned to learn more about the mysteries of the past. New alien mummies. In 2017, something unusual was discovered in a Peruvian cave. A dried-out Voldemort-like figurine with 3 fingers and an elongated skull attracted the attention of the entire world. An army of experts, including journalist and ufologist Jaime Maussan, were the first to study it. He even claimed that there were rare metals and alloys inside the mummies, like space implants. While scientists were arguing, the mummies found friends. 2 new finds, nicknamed Paloma and Antonio, amazed everyone. 3 fingers, slanted eyes, and an age of about 1,500 years. CT scans showed that their organs were similar to human ones. Traces of a knife blow were found on Antonio's body, and remnants of hair were found on Paloma. Hairy aliens are something new. No one to eat corpses. The Zoroastrian Tower of Silence on Malabar Hill, a sacred site for the Parsi community, is under threat due to the dwindling vulture population in the area. The birds play a key role in the ritual of Dominashini, the uncovering of the bodies of the dead so they can be returned to nature. However, a rapid decline in the number of scavengers in Mumbai since 2015 has put this ancient tradition at risk. The Tower of Silence, or Dakma, which is over 300 years old, is a circular structure that symbolizes eternity in the Zoroastrian faith. It is located in a 22-hectare forest. The outer circle of the tower is for men, the middle one for women, and the inner one for children. Before the body is placed in the Dakma, loved ones pray in special structures called bungalows, and the remains are then carried out by kandis, special caretakers. According to Zoroastrian traditions, contact with a dead body is considered desecration, and vultures play an important role in ensuring cleanliness and maintaining natural balance. But urbanization, habitat change, and environmental problems have led to a sharp decline in the number of these birds. The processes of decomposition of bodies have slowed down, which has created difficulties for performing the ritual. The mythical gold mine. In 1929, Australia found its Indiana Jones, Lewis Harold Bell Lassiter. He claimed that 3 decades earlier he had discovered a huge gold reef in the heart of the continent. There was almost no evidence, but rumors of a missing Klondike excited prospectors and historians. In 1930, Lassiter managed to assemble an expedition and set off into the outback again. He was accompanied by a pilot, 2 prospectors, Aboriginal guides, and even a representative of the governor. However, Lassiter was sullen, confused in his stories, and reluctant to show the way. Having reached Mount Marjorie, he declared that they were lost. His companions considered him an imposter and left. Lassiter was left with only a hunter, but soon the hunter also abandoned him. As a result, Harold continued on his way alone. A year later, he was found dead in a cave. According to his diary, he died of exhaustion after spending his last months among the natives trying to survive. Meanwhile, the legend of the reef did not die out. Numerous prospectors combed the McDonnell Range in the hope of finding gold. The press discussed the mysterious Swede Olof Johansson, who allegedly also knew the way to the treasure. Later, books and films appeared. Director Luke Walker in the project Lassiter's Bones found letters from Harold mentioning that same Olaf and hinting at the lost reef. Modern research has not confirmed large deposits in the designated area, although geologist Bill DeCarly came across a quartz layer reminiscent of Lassiter's description. He believes that Harold was just retelling other people's stories. Nevertheless, the mystery of the treasure continues to excite the minds of romantics and gold hunters. The eerie secret of the Black Death. A study of an ancient Egyptian mummy has shed light on the early spread of the deadly bubonic plague in North Africa. The 290-year-old remains kept in the Egyptian Museum in Turin have astounded scientists. Traces of the Yersinia pestis bacterium were found in the bones and even in the intestinal contents. It turns out that this disease penetrated the region long before the Black Death epidemic that raged in Europe in the 14th century. Until now, the oldest references to the plague came from Asia, 5,000-year-old finds in Russia and materials from Europe and Asia.
But the mummy from Turin has confirmed for the first time that the dangerous pathogen also settled in ancient Egypt. Scientists recalled that fleas were found in the village of Amarna, where the builders of Tutankhamun's tomb worked. They are the main carriers of the infection. There is even a reference in the Ebers Papyrus, over 3,500 years old, to a mysterious bubo filled with pus, suggesting that the plague may have spread from Nile rats to ship passengers, who eventually carried the disease throughout the Mediterranean. The Black Death thus became just a bright chapter in the long history of the plague, and it is now clear that its sinister waves swept across the world much earlier than previously thought, and Africa played a much more significant role in this process. Discovery rewrites alcohol history. The process of distilling alcohol goes back much further than previously thought. New excavations at the tomb of Liu He, the 9th emperor of the Western Han dynasty, have revealed that distillation was already known in China 2,000 years ago. Scientists have found a bronze vessel called a heavenly pot, which served as a key part of a wine distillation device. Previously, historical texts only pointed to the emergence of such technologies during the Yuan dynasty, that is, 1,000 years later. Despite his short reign, Liu He left behind an impressive legacy. In addition to the distiller itself, the oldest painting of Confucius was found in his tomb, as well as thousands of pieces of armor made of iron, copper, and lacquered leather. All this testifies to the high level of craftsmanship of the Western Han era. An experiment with a replica of the bronze vessel showed a distillation efficiency of over 70% while preserving the taste and aroma of the drink. Initially thought to have been used for perfume essences or medicine, it is now clear that its primary purpose was alcohol production. The findings provide insight into the evolution of brewing and alcohol practices, complementing historical records and revealing the potential of early Chinese inventors. Over 100,000 years old. Researchers continue to unravel the mysteries of our evolution, now discovering unusual 115,000-year-old footprints in northern Saudi Arabia. The tracks, preserved in a former mud pit in the middle of the Nafud Desert, have astonished scientists by appearing in a place where such ancient human tracks were not expected. The tracks are estimated to belong to early Homo sapiens rather than Neanderthals, confirming the migration routes of human ancestors in a changing climate. Thanks to a surprising combination of factors, the absence of strong winds and the local climate, the structure of the tracks has remained virtually intact, allowing them to be accurately dated and reconstructed as a short-term stopover by Lake Alatar during a dry period. The site appears to have served as a rest and watering place rather than a permanent settlement, as evidenced by the lack of tool or hunting traces. Some scientists believe that these tracks fit into the general migration route by which Homo sapiens moved from Africa to Eurasia. The new findings change our view of migration routes and clearly demonstrate how nature can carefully preserve the chronicle of life.
A cache of royal regalia. An unexpected discovery in the dungeons of the Vilnius Cathedral shocked historians. A carefully walled-up vault with burial regalia associated with the rulers of the Grand Duchy of Lithuania and Poland was discovered. Crowns, scepters, chains, rings, and tablets belonging to King Alexander, his mother Elizabeth of Habsburg, and Barbara Radziwill, the wife of Sigismund Augustus, were found there. These items were not worn during life but were made specifically for burial ceremonies. According to researchers, the regalia were first discovered in 1931, but with the start of World War II, they were hidden deeper in the catacombs and walled up to protect them from looting. The location of this cache eluded archaeologists for decades until December 2024, when a detailed examination of all the cavities was carried out using an endoscope, comparing archival diagrams with new plans of the cathedral. In the end, the treasure was found. Barbara Radziwill, whose tragic fate became legendary, died shortly after her coronation, which made her burial regalia especially significant for her contemporaries. A half-ton space find. A massive metal ring, more than 2.5 meters in diameter and weighing almost half a ton, has fallen near a Kenyan village. The Kenyan Space Agency suggests that the fragment may have been part of a launch vehicle that did not burn up during re-entry into the atmosphere. Locals noticed the object flare up at altitude and light up before it fell to the ground. Such situations are extremely rare since most space junk usually burns up or lands in the ocean. The incident reminded people of the consequences of 60 years of space exploration and made people afraid of another fall of debris. The most outstanding discovery of the year. During excavations near the German city of Retz, scientists came across a unique brooch dating back to the 7th century. This exquisite piece of gilded silver inlaid with red garnets, almandines, is considered one of the most significant finds of 2024. According to archaeologist Detlef Janssen, the brooch could have belonged to members of the elite, since such items are most often found in rich burial complexes. The luxurious Cloisonne enamel technique used to secure the precious stones formed complex geometric patterns reminiscent of intertwined snakes. The thinnest layer of gold on the base enhances the depth of the garnet's color, and the oval shape of the brooch lends it a special elegance. It is believed that the piece of jewelry dates back to the period of the Great Migration of Peoples, 3rd–6th centuries, when extensive migrations radically changed the political and cultural map of Europe. Personal sacrifice. During excavations at Huacasao Viejo in northern Peru, archaeologists have uncovered a startling practice. Adolescents were sacrificed along with their high-ranking relatives. Genetic analysis of remains more than 1,500 years old revealed that the boy and girl were the son and niece of the Moche ruler, Sesora de Sao. Moreover, the girl's father was one of the nobleman's brothers, also buried in the same tomb. Unlike the public ritual sacrifices common among the Moche, the victims here were strangled in a private ceremony in honor of a noblewoman. Scientists speculate that such a ritual may have served to strengthen power or family ties, but the exact motives remain a mystery. Artifacts found with the bodies indicate the deceased's high status, and strangulation may have been considered an honest way to send her companions to the afterlife. For the Moche, whose temples and tombs often contain evidence of sacrifice, this is a rare case of kin sacrifice. The cost of building the Cheops Pyramid. We are used to skyscrapers that grow with the help of metal frames and modern technology, but the Cheops Pyramid, built around 2600 BC, still amazes the imagination. Its height reached 146 meters, and only by the 13th century AD did buildings appear higher. To understand how much it would cost to build such a pyramid today, historians and engineers estimated the costs of stone, transportation, salaries, crane rental, and other details. The amount is impressive, about $5 billion. After all, about 2.5 million cubic meters of limestone will be needed, for which you'll have to go to quarries, and for the interior cladding, thousands of tons of granite from Aswan, located hundreds of kilometers away. Add to this designers, geologists, fuel for transporting blocks and giant cranes. In ancient times, everything was done by hand. It is believed that thousands of free workers worked on the construction site, regularly changing teams that received decent food and housing. They moved multi-ton blocks along ramps using wooden rollers and erected a colossal structure that was surprisingly precise in its fit. Even today, it is impossible to fit a knife blade between some of the stones. According to some experts, the construction took from 20 to 27 years. About 2 tons of meat were needed daily to feed the workers, not counting grain, vegetables, and water. It is noteworthy that the project itself was headed by Himeun, the pharaoh's nephew, who actually acted as the chief architect. It was he who coordinated the work of tens of thousands of people, which in itself speaks of the impressive organization of labor in ancient Egypt. Today, the pyramids remain not only an object of historical heritage, but also a source of eternal questions about what humanity is capable of in order to realize ambitious goals. For the Egyptians, the Pyramid of Cheops was more than just a building. It was a symbol of the pharaoh's power and the highest engineering achievement of its time, which still inspires us to bold achievements. Meteorites help win the lottery. In 2015, a bright meteor flew over Kanchanaburi, Thailand, lighting up the sky with green and orange flashes. Since then, there have been rumors that its debris has scattered around the area. In fact, meteors have visited Thailand more than once in recent years, leaving people with black stones that are believed to have magical powers. The The most famous story comes from Fatalung province. A married couple from Sirapuadan discovered strange boulders weighing up to 20 kilograms in a palm plantation. At night, lightning struck the garden, and in the morning the couple saw burning holes with mysterious fragments in them. Having taken the gift from heaven home, they soon felt a surge of energy and noticed that they began to quarrel less. Interested neighbors noticed unusual patterns on the surface of the stones, mistaking them for lucky numbers for the lottery. This is a popular hobby in Thailand. Although there was no big win, the belief in special properties only grew stronger. Now, people often come to the owners to charge themselves with cosmic energy, and some are thinking about making money on such relics. This cult of heavenly stones shows how a natural phenomenon can turn into a mystical one, reflecting a craving for miracles and a desire to join the secrets of space. The last refuge of the lonely woman. From 1835 to 1853, a Nicolaso woman lived alone on San Nicolas Island, the furthest island in the English Channel. It was this story that inspired Scott Odell to write Island of the Blue Dolphins. When her people were evacuated due to the threat of otter hunters, the ship quickly sailed away, leaving the young girl alone. According to some accounts, she jumped into the water to save a boy. According to others, she was left behind by a strong storm. In any case, she lived in isolation for the next 18 years, eating seals, roots, and shellfish. Fishermen often spotted a mysterious figure on the shore, but they were unable to catch her. Finally, trapper George Nidiver and his companions, seeing fresh tracks, found this brave islander dressed in a skirt of green cormorant feathers. The woman turned out to be friendly and cheerful, although she spoke a language that no one understood. Her entire tribe had disappeared by that time, and attempts to communicate were limited to gestures and original chants. She lived with Nidiver for 7 weeks, then fell ill with dysentery and died, having managed to accept Christianity under the name Juana Maria. Artifacts found later, harpoons, hooks, shell jewelry, testify to her way of life and craftsmanship. San Nicolas Island today serves as a military base, and the fate of a lonely woman remains one of the most touching stories of survival and fortitude. Hidden medieval stories. Iceland has a rich literary history dating back to the Middle Ages. Here on an island with a population of just 380,000, many people write books following traditions that began with the Vikings. Scholars believe that the Skalds, Icelandic poets, not only glorified the kings of Norway, but also laid the foundation for epic prose and vast bodies of knowledge. Medieval texts, from royal sagas to theological treatises, were written on expensive calfskin parchment, vellum. When a book aged, its materials were often reused, the text was cut out for new entries, or covers were made from the scraps, and sometimes even church mitres. In particularly rare cases, palimpsests appeared, parchments on which the old text was erased or scraped off, and new text was written in its place. This practice became especially widespread after the Reformation of the 16th century, when Latin services were replaced by Icelandic. But fragments of the old are often visible beneath the new writing, and modern methods make it possible to unravel the mysteries of a bygone era. Child finds Neanderthal tool. 3 years ago, 6-year-old Ben picked up an unusual stone on a Sussex beach. He forgot about the find when he got home, but it later turned out to be a 50,000-year-old Neanderthal axe. When Ben's family contacted James Sainsbury, curator of the Worthing Museum of Archaeology, he expected to see an ordinary cobblestone, but one look confirmed its uniqueness. This is a hand axe of late Neanderthals. They are extremely rare because at that time their population was small. The museum has only one such example, and the new find, judging by the state of preservation, lay underwater for a long time. Researchers date this period to the end of the existence of Neanderthals in Europe, when they were already occupying British lands. Probably the stone was carried along with pebbles from the English Channel, or even from the flooded region of Doggerland, inhabited by people thousands of years ago. On November 24th, Ben and his parents delivered the axe to the museum. An hour later, it was on display. Sainsbury stressed that this was a rare find for Sussex. Ben's family is pleased that the accidental discovery has become a major contribution to science. A graveyard 3,000 km long.
From 1840 to 1860, hundreds of thousands of settlers headed to the American West along the so-called Oregon Trail, a route about 3,200 kilometers long from the banks of the Missouri to the Willamette Valley. They crossed endless prairies, arid steppes, and formidable mountain passes, often spending more than half a year on the road. The journey was full of trials. Lack of food, thirst, disease, and unpredictable weather killed many before reaching their destination. Historically, this region, called the Oregon Territory, belonged to Great Britain, but America laid claim to it after the purchase of Louisiana and successful migration to new lands. The first expeditions of Lewis and Clark and fur trader John Astor paved the way, but it was not until 1836 that the first wagons with settler families set off along the western road. By 1843, about 1,000 immigrants had already formed the famous wagon train of the Great Migration, proving that it was possible to overcome such a dangerous route. However, the road easily turned into a real nightmare. Fast rivers overturned carts, cholera and typhoid fever mercilessly took lives, and careless handling of weapons led to tragedies. According to statistics, there are up to 10 graves on every mile of the trail, and now they say that the Oregon Trail is the longest cemetery in the world. Many of the monuments along it are unnamed because they had to be buried hastily, sometimes compacting the earth with the wheels of wagons so that predators would not find the remains. Thus, the legends and myths about the conquest of the Wild West are closely intertwined with the history of dramatic human destinies.
Chatsworth's Great Orangery. Long before Joseph Paxton built the iconic Crystal Palace for the Great Exhibition of 1851, he honed his craft at Chatsworth House in picturesque Derbyshire. There he built the colossal Great Orangery, a giant glass house where Paxton pioneered the techniques that would later be used to build London's biggest architectural sensation. As early as the 1830s, while serving as head gardener, Paxton reimagined the landscape of Chatsworth, creating a 16-hectare arboretum and growing exotic crops like pineapples. The idea of modern orangeries was just gaining momentum, and the existing ones at Chatsworth had already fallen into disrepair. Paxton introduced a new roof design, oriented at an angle to the morning and evening sun, and an original metal frame that let in maximum daylight. This approach was quickly adopted by others. In 1836, he began construction of a grand greenhouse, 70 meters long, 38 meters wide, and almost 20 meters high. Even a couple of carriages could pass inside, and a staircase hidden behind rocky ledges led to a gallery with a view of the crowns of tropical palms. The warm climate was provided by 8 coal boilers connected by an underground labyrinth of pipes and a railway that delivered fuel. Up to 300 tons of coal were needed for the winter. However, by the beginning of the First World War, there was a catastrophic shortage of fuel, heating was stopped, and all the plants died. The great greenhouse, insanely expensive to maintain, was soon demolished. But it was here that the technologies were born that made the magnificent radiance of the Crystal Palace possible. A very expensive find. In August, Canadian mining company Lucara Diamond Corp announced the discovery of what is believed to be the second largest diamond in the world. It weighs 2492 carats. The stone was found in the Karo mine in Botswana, where another record-breaking diamond, the 1109-carat Lesedi La Rona, was found in 2015 and sold for $53 million 2 years later. The largest diamond in the world is still the famous Cullinan, weighing 3,106 carats, discovered in South Africa in 1905. To extract such impressive stones, the company used a specially developed tool, the Mega Diamond Recovery System, based on X-ray transmission. This technology is designed to find and extract huge gems that remain hidden in the bowels of the earth. The Shugborough Code Mystery. The 8-letter riddle engraved on the Shepherd's Monument at Shugborough, Staffordshire, has puzzled historians, cipher buffs, and even prominent figures such as Charles Darwin and Charles Dickens for more than 2 centuries. Between the initials D and M are the letters OUOSVAVV, and no one knows for sure what they mean. The monument itself is a loose reinterpretation of the famous painting by Nicolas Poussin, The Shepherds of Arcadia, with the Latin inscription Et in Arcadia ego, I too am in Arcadia, which gave rise to many legends about the connection with the search for the Holy Grail and the secrets of the Knights Templar. Some researchers believe that the inscription on the monument is just an elegant joke. Others are trying to read a hidden religious message in the letters. For example, American Keith Massey, an experienced Latinist and former employee of the National Security Agency, claims that the letters are deciphered as Oro ut omnes sequantur viam ad verum vitam, which is translated from Latin as I pray that all follow the path to true life. In his opinion, this phrase refers to the words of Christ from the Gospel of John. There is another explanation. The pair D and M is interpreted as dis manibus, a Roman formula for the spirits of the underworld found on Christian tombstones. But there is still no evidence for an unambiguous version. So this bizarre chain of letters carved on a stone in the middle of well-groomed landscapes continues to excite the imagination of everyone who tries to guess its secret.
Ancient Egyptian bread. The bread, estimated to be between 3,369 and 3,406 years old, was found in the tomb of an architect who served Pharaoh Amenhotep III. The bread is an amazing example of how food was preserved thanks to the advanced mummification techniques used by the ancient Egyptians. The Egyptians mummified not only their bodies, but also the food they believed the dead could use in the afterlife. The process involved treating the food with salt, drying it slowly, binding it, and coating it with resin to protect it from deterioration. The loaves show traces of their characteristic texture and shape, confirming their origin and ritual role. The bread was a symbolic and practical preparation for life after death, reflecting the Egyptians' deep belief that they would need everything they had on earth in the afterlife. It existed. Until recently, scientists believed that the grandiose project to build the capital of Assyria, Dur-Sharrukin, Khorsabad, froze in a half-finished form after the death of King Sargon II. However, new geophysical research proves the opposite. The city was completed and actively functioning. Archaeologists used the magnetometry method, which allowed them to discover the remains of an impressive 127-room villa, probable royal gardens, and a water gate, as well as other large structures. All these discoveries indicate that Khorsabad was a thriving center beyond the main palace. Conceived by Sargon II himself in 713 BC as the Fortress of Sargon, the city did not sink into oblivion after his death. New data contradicts the long-standing opinion about the unfinished project and reveals the hidden life of the ancient capital. Work resumed in 2017 after the area was liberated from ISIS. Led by the French archaeological mission, the team used a high-precision magnetometer to visualize underground structures without expensive excavations. It turned out that Khorsabad, contrary to long-held doubts, served as a full-fledged capital of Assyria. And now modern discoveries are revealing even more about the scale and wealth of the ancient empire. Hoard of 11th century coins. At the future site of the Sizewell C nuclear power station in Suffolk, archaeologists from Oxford Cotswold Archaeology have discovered a rare hoard of 321 11th century silver coins in perfect condition. The coins were carefully sealed in a lead roll, which the researchers nicknamed paste because of its resemblance to a Cornish pasty. Archaeologist Andrew Pegg admits that his hands were shaking when he first saw the shiny edge of one of the coins. The dating of this find covers the era of three English kings at once: Harold I, Harthacnut, and Edward the Confessor. Most of the coins were minted in London, but there are also examples from Thetford, Norwich, Ipswich, and even Lincoln. According to archaeologists, the owner of the hoard belonged to the wealthy middle class and, fearing political change, decided to hide his savings. Most likely, he was unable to return for them or find the place where he buried the treasure. Tomb of the Magician. In Saqqara, the necropolis of ancient Memphis, archaeologists have discovered the tomb of the royal physician Teti Nebfu, who lived about 4,000 years ago. According to the surviving inscriptions on the walls and sarcophagus, it has been established that he served under the pharaoh Pepi II and held many titles: chief physician of the palace, chief dentist, director of medicinal plants, priest and magician of the goddess Selket. Since Selket patronized dangerous creatures with poison, scientists believe that Teti Nebfu knew how to treat poisonous bites. Despite the fact that the tomb was partially looted, its walls have been preserved in excellent condition and are decorated with bright paintings, scenes of offerings, a false door, ritual images. In addition to royal burials, burials of royal officials, including associates and servants of Pepi II, were previously found in Saqqara. Recently, several stone sarcophagi with hieroglyphs dedicated to the gods of Upper and Lower Egypt were also excavated there. According to experts, the splendor of Teti Nebfu's final resting place speaks to the high status of healing and magic at that time. The Egyptians had deep knowledge of anatomy, knew how to treat serious illnesses, and considered words and rituals to be as important as medicines.
The mythical giant. The Cardiff Giant, a supposed petrified man 10 feet tall, was discovered in 1869 by workers digging a well in Cardiff, New York. The giant was actually a fake, made from a block of gypsum. It was taken to a farm in Cardiff where it was buried for a year before being discovered by workers. The idea for the giant was George Hull's, who wanted to prove the public's naivety and exploit people's religious beliefs about giant men mentioned in the Bible. After the giant was found, it became the subject of mass attention, with spectators paying to see it. Barnum, a famous showman, offered to buy the giant but was refused. He then created his own replica and claimed that his version was genuine and the original was a fake. In 1870, both giants were found to be fakes, but the Cardiff Giant went down in history as one of the greatest hoaxes of the 19th century.
Lighthouse of Terror. Lighthouses have long been shrouded in mysticism. Their seemingly purely utilitarian task of guiding ships comes up against the unpredictable power of ocean waves. However, the Thévenet Lighthouse in Brittany, France has a particularly sinister reputation. Immediately after it was commissioned in 1875, rumors began to circulate that keepers there were going crazy or dying under mysterious circumstances, and the builders themselves allegedly heard Breton cries of, go away, this is my place." Thévenet is located on a rocky islet in the stormy Strait of Ras de Seine. For a long time, the administration could not determine the status of the lighthouse, hell for employees on the high seas, purgatory on a remote island, or paradise on the shore. Because of the small lantern, it was assigned the category of paradise, with only one keeper assigned, and this despite the fact that the conditions there are extremely difficult. Over time, legends began to multiply. Some recalled an unsuccessful exorcism, others described the ghost of a sailor who died of thirst on a rock, and the writer Anatole Labraz popularized these stories. In 1910, the lighthouse was the first in France to be automated. It is believed that no one wanted to work there. Only at the end of the 20th century, historian Jean-Christophe Fichot found out that the archives of the city of Quimper do not confirm either mass madness or mysterious deaths. The gloomy howl is explained by an underwater grotto in which the splash of water mixes with air currents, creating terrifying sounds. And yet, Thévenet still remains the most cursed lighthouse in the country in Breton folklore. This video has come to an end, but you can watch a great many other videos on the channel where I talked about the most mystical finds of archaeologists and even showed evidence of the existence of UFOs in ancient times. I highly recommend watching them. Two-headed alien. A strange mummy with two heads was discovered in Tibet, which was immediately dubbed the two-headed alien. This artifact shocked scientists and fans of mysticism. The mummy looks as if its origins go beyond the earthly, which gives rise to many theories, from mutations to extraterrestrial civilizations. Some researchers believe that this could be a ritual artifact or a cult image created by ancient people to worship unknown forces. Interestingly, the structure of the mummy looks unusual even for mutations known to biology. The proportions of its body and the shape of its head suggest that it could be the embodiment of something mythical or unearthly. Ancient Tibetan legends often mention heavenly beings who visited Earth. Perhaps this artifact is an attempt to depict those whom the ancients considered gods. However, there is also a more mundane version. The mummy may be the result of artificial mummification of two different bodies connected for ritual purposes. Alien skulls. A few years ago, American and European media were filled with sensational stories about the discovery of alien skulls in a cave in Russia. These strange skulls, resembling something clearly non-human, caused a lot of controversy. Many assumed that they could belong to aliens or creatures unknown to science. However, journalists soon declared that the whole story was a hoax and it quickly disappeared from the headlines. These skulls could have been part of an ancient ritual or simply the altered remains of animals whose bones had acquired unusual shapes. but it is interesting to imagine what it must have felt like to discover them for the first time in a dark, cold cave. It is one thing to see them in a photograph, and quite another to hold this mysterious artifact in your hands, causing a feeling of both fear and curiosity. Even though this discovery turned out to be a hoax, it remains an interesting reminder of how myths and facts can intertwine to create amazing stories. The mystery of a 3,000-year-old mummy has been solved. Scientists have managed to solve the mystery of the mummy of the Egyptian woman Shenat, who was sealed in cartonnage without visible seams. Using CT scanning, researchers finally understood how she was embalmed about 3,000 years ago. Shenat lived during the Third Intermediate Period during the reign of the 22nd dynasty. At the time of her death, she was about 40 years old, and the careful preparation of her body for the afterlife indicates her high social status. For many years, scientists could not explain how the remains ended up inside the cartonnage, finding only a small hole near the feet. However, scanning revealed a seam along the back and lacing, which provided a clue. The embalmers softened the cartonnage so that it became flexible, made a cut in the back, and placed the body inside. Then the seam was sewn up and a wooden panel near the feet was used for fixation. The internal organs were removed and replaced with wax figures of the sons of Horus, Amset, Hapi, Duamutef, and Kebe-Senuf. Each of them protected a certain organ. It also turned out that Shenat had lost several teeth, and the remaining ones were badly worn down, which may be due to the sand in her food. The Egyptian's eyes were replaced with artificial ones, and her body was wrapped in expensive linen. Her brightly decorated sarcophagus emphasizes her privileged position. The ancient Egyptians prepared for the afterlife, just as we prepare for retirement. They saved up money to provide for themselves in the world of the dead.
Bas-reliefs of Nuku-Hiva. On the island of Nuku-Hiva, part of the Marquesas Islands archipelago in French Polynesia, archaeologists are amazed by mysterious statues. The bas-reliefs and sculptures depict strange creatures reminiscent of gray aliens. Their bodies are human and their heads are like reptiles, with huge round eyes and low-set mouths. Who created these statues and why is unknown. The modern natives of the island know nothing about the origin of the sculptures and believe that they depict the ancient god Ono, who, according to their beliefs, created the world. When Europeans discovered the island in the 16th century, it was inhabited by savage gatherers famous for their cannibalism. However, the connection between the current inhabitants and those who created the mysterious statues has been lost. Archaeologists assume that these sculptures are at least 150,000 years old. Some believe that they depict priests in ritual masks, but these masks look too unusual to be simply part of Earth culture. Conspiracy theorists are convinced that Nuku-Hiva was once home to an alien colony. They believe that the statues depict human-alien hybrids and that the sculptures themselves are the result of ancient experiments. Salt Man of Iran. This amazing find was discovered in the mid-1990s in the salt mines near Sharabad in the mountains of Iran. Archaeologists believe that these are the remains of an ancient salt mine worker who died right at his workplace about 1,500 years ago. The unique conditions of the cave, saturated with salt vapors, helped to preserve his body in an amazing condition. The mummy even has preserved his hair, which, under the influence of salt, acquired a whitish tint, as well as a beard, which adds an even more creepy look to the find. Scientists believe that the high concentration of salt in the cave prevented the decomposition process, mummifying the body naturally. The salted body looks as if time has stopped, allowing us to look at the face of the past. The Salt Man became not only an archaeological sensation, but also an important source of information about the lives of people of that era. Today, this mummy is a reminder of the harsh reality of the past and the unique interaction of man with nature. Indonesian Star Trek. In 1992, geologist Castillo made a discovery that still shocks today. In the province of Kapanga, Indonesia, he was exploring the Satan's Cave in the mountains and found an unusual stone. On its chip were engraved mysterious symbols that resembled a map of the Star Trek. The signs on the stone are strikingly similar to the images on the plaques sent into space by NASA with the Pioneer 10 and Pioneer 11 probes in the 1970s. The The stone depicts a man and a woman holding hands, as well as the sun, stars, and lines resembling routes. Geologists claim that the age of the stone's processing is hundreds of thousands of years. This casts doubt on its terrestrial origin because at that time people, as is assumed, could not have had such knowledge. Conspiracy theorists suggest that aliens received a message from the Pioneer probe but miscalculated and missed the time, ending up on Earth hundreds of thousands of years ago. Perhaps they got stuck here and left their mark in the form of this stone. Another version says that the stone could have been created by a highly developed civilization that existed in Indonesia long before our era. The map depicts a star system with 1 star and 7 planets, an almost exact reproduction of the solar system. Modern scientists recognize 8 planets, but until recently, Neptune was considered an asteroid. Whoever the creators of the mysterious stone were, their knowledge of the stars remains a mystery, astonishing modern science. Teddy Bear Soldier. In 1908, a Birmingham boy received a teddy bear as a Christmas present, which he named Captain Bruini. However, the bear's fate changed in 1915 when the boy's father was called up for war. To soften the pain of parting, the boy dressed his friend in a military uniform made from scrap materials. The bear received a unique outfit: stylish baggy trousers, a U-saber, a pistol, and even a driving license signed by the boy's father. A postcard with the bear's history, written by its owner, says that Bruini served on Salisbury Plain and quickly achieved the rank of general thanks to questionable maneuvers. His motorcycle with a sidecar had wheels made from tin lids, and the boy and his cousins sewed the clothes. The bear's story is unique in that he retained his military appearance. Antique teddy bear expert Daniel Agnew said most of the toys were stripped of their shape after the war because it was a reminder of hard times. The bear's owner remains a mystery, but there are clues, including a signature on a driving license, that could be bullwright. Captain Bruini is up for auction in Newbury, Berkshire, where it is expected to fetch £1,200. Sinister Secrets of Egypt. Dr. Sperl, a deputy head of the German expedition in Egypt, told about his discovery, which is several decades old. Together with American colleagues, he found a mysterious black temple of the solar scarab in Anglo-Egyptian Sudan. The temple was built of black basalt blocks without windows, and the roof stood without supports. The entrance was covered with sand, which workers cleared in a few days. Inside was a second stone box almost touching the roof. Without doors and holes, it looked like a mysterious trap. Workers tried to disassemble it for 2 days, but even a crowbar left no traces on the solid basalt. Soon, the workers discovered a lid with an image of a scarab, decorated with gold and blue paint, resistant to time. The lid concealed a manhole leading to an underground room where there was a huge metal sculpture of a beetle with a crystal head. This bug looked more like a technological device than a religious artifact. The attempt to study the artifact ended unexpectedly. An English officer returned with a detachment of soldiers and an order from the governor to leave the excavations. The American expedition was kicked out and the temple was closed. A few years later, Sperley learned that a British airbase had appeared on the site of the temple. The strange metal sculpture, reminiscent of a machine, remained a mystery forever. Sperley never returned to this topic as his knowledge was soon needed by the Third Reich. The history of the Black Temple of the Solar Scarab remained one of the most mysterious pages in archaeology. The Cave Devil. This sinister face, known as the Cave Devil, stares out at visitors from the wall of one of the famous Devil's Caves in West Wickham, southeast Britain. The caves were hand-carved in the 18th century, and their history is closely linked to the Hellfire Club, a society founded by the eccentric aristocrat Sir Francis Dashwood. The club included members of the elite of the time who gathered here to perform mysterious rituals and, according to rumors, even black masses. After Dashwood's death, the club ceased to exist and the caves were abandoned. However, since the mid-20th century, they have been turned into a tourist attraction, attracting the curious and adventure seekers. Among the twisting passages and dark halls, tourists often encounter this carved image suddenly emerging from the cave's darkness, which often causes them real horror. While the true purpose of this devilish mask remains unknown, it fuels legends about the dark secrets of the Hellfire Club. The Four-Eyed Figurine. This mysterious figurine, known as the Four-Eyed, was found in what is now Serbia. The age of the artifact is estimated at over 7,000 years, making it one of the oldest finds associated with the pre-literate culture of the Balkans. The figurine depicts a humanoid with 4 eyes, or perhaps elements resembling a mask. There is a hypothesis that these 4 eyes are actually part of a mask or headdress, and the figurine itself could depict not a real creature, but a mythical or divine creature revered in the society of that time. There is even a bold suggestion that it could be something resembling a spacesuit, hinting at contact with something extraterrestrial. Although this, of course, remains in the realm of fantasy. Little is known about the purpose of the figurine. Perhaps it was used in rituals or was a symbol of a protector or patron. This artifact leaves more questions than answers and continues to stir debate among archaeologists and mystery lovers. The 4-eyed one is one of those rare artifacts that not only reveals fragments of the past to us, but also excites our imagination. Witch marks. On the eve of Halloween, representatives of the English State Commission on Historical Monuments made a curious statement. Dozens of mysterious symbols were discovered in one of the best-preserved medieval estates in England, Gainsborough Old Hall. They are called witch marks, although they are associated with witches only in folklore. Gainsborough Old Hall, built in 1460 by Sir Thomas Burgh, is located in the east of England. This impressive estate, not inferior to royal residences, served as a home for the rich and influential Burgh family. They often had to defend their lands from neighbors, and at various times Henry VIII himself visited here. In 1542, he visited the estate with his 5th wife, Catherine Howard, who was soon accused of treason and executed. Perhaps this place also played a role in the fate of Catherine Parr, his 6th and last wife. The building has retained many elements of its medieval appearance, the main hall with a unique roof, the kitchen, and the tower. However, the researchers were attracted by the mysterious signs on the walls. It took 2 years to study them, and interesting facts were revealed. Most of the symbols are in the servants' wing, but some are in the main hall. Among them, the pentagram associated with the imposition of curses and the inverted name Hickman, the owner of the estate since the 16th century, stand out. In Anglo-Saxon and Roman times, it was common practice to change names and spells, but for the Middle Ages, this find is unique. However, most of the symbols are so-called witch marks. These are circles with patterns that were supposed to scare away demons and protect the house from evil forces. Despite the name, their main purpose is a talisman. The signs, for example, could symbolize traps for evil or be used in rituals of sympathetic magic. Often the owners of the buildings also burned the walls to protect the house from fires. More than 100 such traces were found at Gainsborough Old Hall. Sabu's Disc. This is one of the most mysterious artifacts of ancient Egypt found in the tomb of Sabu, a descendant of Pharaoh Ajib. It is at least 5,000 years old, but its true purpose remains a mystery. At first glance, it is a stone disc with 3 curved petals, but the details make one wonder. The thickness in some places reaches only 1.5 millimeters, which indicates incredible precision of manufacture. Given the level of technology of that time, many wonder, how was this possible? Scientists hypothesize that the disc could have been part of a ritual or a decorative element, but there are other theories that go beyond the usual. Some researchers believe that the Sabu disc could have been a copy of a device left by guests from the sky, a highly developed civilization that visited Earth in ancient times. The structure and shape of the artifact resemble modern aerodynamic devices or even elements of complex mechanisms. The Egyptians may have considered this object sacred and tried to reproduce something they saw but did not understand. Some believe that the Sabu disc is the key to unraveling the interaction of ancient civilizations with extraterrestrial intelligence. For now, these are just guesses, but the mystical aura surrounding this artifact continues to excite minds and invites us to delve into the secrets of the past. Ghost of Mammoth Cave. Mammoth Cave in Kentucky is not only one of the largest underground systems in the world with passages about 500 kilometers long, but also a place shrouded in legends. Initially used for saltpeter mining, the cave later turned into a tourist attraction. Underground lakes, giant halls, and echoes resounding in the labyrinths attracted curious people from all corners. However, the cave gained its real fame thanks to stories about ghosts. There are rumors among visitors and workers that in the cave you can meet the souls of the dead workers who once toiled in its depths. Tourists often report strange shadows, unclear silhouettes, or inexplicable voices coming from the darkness. There were cases when entire groups claimed to have seen ghostly figures that seemed to be watching them from afar. Legends claim that these are the spirits of miners who died in accidents. These stories add even more mystery to the cave and attract not only nature lovers, but also seekers of the supernatural. Mammoth Cave remains a place where mysticism and history intertwine, creating a special atmosphere. Indian airplanes. Amazing artifacts known as Indian airplanes have been found in Mexico and South America. These miniature gold figures, dating back hundreds, perhaps thousands of years, are striking in their detail. At first glance, they are toys, but their shape is too reminiscent of modern aircraft such as space shuttles or airplanes. Scientists were especially drawn to the tail rudders, symmetrical notches on the wings, and other elements that would have no practical use in a toy. The question arises, what was the basis for creating these figures? The only plausible explanation is that the craftsmen copied what they saw. Perhaps these artifacts are a reflection of real events when the inhabitants of ancient America observed the flights of mysterious devices. Some researchers associate these finds with theories about ancient astronauts, claiming that aliens, the Anunnaki or representatives of another civilization, visited Earth and left their traces. The mystery of these little planes is enhanced by another fact. Modern engineers have been able to create models based on these artifacts that, with the addition of an engine, are actually capable of flying. Is this a coincidence, an ancient myth, or evidence of technology that came from other planets? Work made English women witches. For a woman to be accused of witchcraft in the early modern period, she sometimes had to do nothing more than annoy her neighbors with her presence. However, there was an unexpected factor that significantly increased the chances of British women being accused of witchcraft. Accusations of magic began to spread across Europe as early as the 13th century during the fight against heretics. By the Renaissance, the practice had evolved into a mass witch hunt, which peaked in the 16th and 17th centuries. Although men were also suspected of witchcraft, women were the victims of accusations in the vast majority of cases. Only 10 to 30% of suspects were men. Historians attribute this to misogyny and the socioeconomic problems of the time. But research by Dr. Philippa Carter of Cambridge University adds another reason. Carter studied the handwritten journals of Richard Napier, a physician and astrologer who lived in the 16th and 17th centuries. Napier, a parish priest, was known not for his sermons but as a doctor of the soul and body. His records include 1714 cases in which patients complained that they had been cursed. Often the names of alleged witches appeared in such stories, and the vast majority of accusations concerned women. Carter found that working women were much more likely to be accused. This can be explained by the professions that English women held at the time: nursing the sick and children, cooking, dairy production, and tending to livestock. If a patient did not recover, cheese spoiled, or a calf died, an accusation of witchcraft was good to go. The work of a midwife was considered especially dangerous. High infant mortality often provoked accusations of curses. Male artisans, even if their work went poorly, were more likely to face criticism for poor craftsmanship than accusations of magic. Napier's notes provide no information on how such accusations ended. Perhaps some suspicions remained mere words, and the accusers vented their emotions by turning to an astrologer. Thus, in the Middle Ages, a working woman was much more likely to become a witch than an ordinary housewife. Snot of the earth. In one of the poisoned caves near the Mexican city of Tabasco, researcher Diana Northup came across a strange substance, which immediately received the unofficial name snot, or snot of the earth. These thick, stretchy drops of a whitish substance hang from the vaults of the cave like fantastic stalactites. At first glance, they resemble something from a horror movie, but this is an absolutely real phenomenon. Snot is still poorly studied. Scientists assume that it consists of mineral and biological components, possibly associated with the activity of bacteria living in the extreme conditions of the cave. Despite the fact that the substance, according to preliminary data, is not dangerous to humans, the mere thought that such a thick drop can suddenly fall on your forehead can make anyone think about the delights of underground exploration. Caves have long been considered one of the most extreme places on the planet where unique forms of life thrive. The study of snot could shed light on microbial ecosystems and their role in the formation of such substances.
Hongshan artifacts. The Hongshan civilization is one of the most mysterious cultures of ancient China, which existed about 7,000 years ago. It left behind unusual jade artifacts that depict humanoids with teardrop-shaped heads and huge eyes. Some of the figurines resemble creatures riding water scooters or even flying machines. These images do not fit into the usual ideas about ancient cultures and make you wonder who or what were the Hongshan masters trying to capture. The unique Huangshan caves discovered in 1999 also belong to this culture. These man-made caves amaze with their size and complexity. Inside, you can see pools, bridges over rivers, stairs, and passages. The area of the largest cave is 12,600 square meters. But the real mystery is the traces left on the walls. They resemble modern tunneling machines, although technology of this level is not believed to have existed thousands of years ago. In addition, it remains unclear where the gigantic volumes of excavated rock disappeared to. Scientists have not yet found traces of its movement. Some researchers suggest that the caves and jade artifacts are evidence of contact with a more advanced civilization, possibly of extraterrestrial origin. Corpses in the Cave of Death. A cave located in a remote area of the Scottish Highlands has an ominous name, the Cave of Death, and this name is completely justified. Archaeologists who discovered it were shocked by the finds inside, the remains of decapitated bodies, children's heads on stakes, and traces of blood. Fortunately, according to experts, the age of these terrible artifacts exceeds 1,000 years. Researchers suggest that the cave was used for sacred rituals during which human sacrifices were made. Perhaps this place was part of an ancient cult associated with the worship of gods or spirits of nature. Rituals involving bloody sacrifices were common in some ancient cultures, and the cave itself could have served as a kind of sanctuary for these purposes. The walls of the cave, dotted with ancient traces and remains of organic matter, allow us to reconstruct the grim scenes that took place here many centuries ago. Despite the horrific nature of the finds, they give scientists a better understanding of ancient rituals and beliefs, recalling the dark pages of human history. Used as a seat. An unexpected archaeological discovery has been made in Turkey. A stone that had been used as a seat for decades near a mosque in the city of Fatsa turned out to be a Roman artifact that is almost 1,800 years old. This monument from the Roman Empire dates back to 239 AD and is a miliaria, a stone that marked distances on the roads of the empire. Roman miliaria played an important role in the transport system that covered the whole of Anatolia. Installed every Roman mile, approximately 1.5 kilometers, they indicated the distances to the nearest cities and sometimes contained the names of emperors or officials responsible for the construction of the roads. The discovered stone from Fatsa was dedicated to Emperor Gordian III and was installed to mark the reconstructed section of the port road connecting the districts of Bolaman and Yalıköy. The unusual use of the stone became known thanks to literature teacher Aydin Bal, who drew attention to the unusual artifact near the Laleli Mosque. The study was carried out by local experts. The inscription on the stone, translated by epigraphist Hüseyin Sami Öztürk, confirmed its Roman origin. The miliarium was originally located along a Roman road but was moved in the 1970s during the construction of a mosque. The artifact has now been sent to the Ordu Museum for further study. The bodies of extraterrestrial beings. Theories about the appearance of aliens vary. Some believe that they are similar to humans, but with differences, a different skin color or elements of the genome that resemble reptiles or plants. Such images are often found in literature and cinema. For example, in the movies about the Guardians of the Galaxy, aliens are depicted as furry or tree-like humanoids. The raccoon rocket and the bark-covered Groot became the embodiment of this idea. Other researchers and writers believe that it is pointless to build ideas about alien life based on earthly evolution. Polish writer Stanislaw Lem in his novel Solaris created a different approach. His alien intelligence is presented as an ocean capable of interacting with people through their memories, providing a chance to correct the past. This became a philosophical response to anthropocentrism in the depiction of aliens. There are also more sinister versions. Some believe that alien life forms may be parasites that use the human body as a habitat. A similar image was embodied in the film Venom, where an extraterrestrial symbiote used a human as a host. Not long ago, Mexican ufologist Jaime Maussan presented remains that, according to him, belonged to ancient aliens. These humanoid-like creatures have three-fingered limbs, missing teeth, and unusual physical features. When X-rayed, rare metals such as cadmium and osmium, which are used today in satellite systems, were found in their bodies. An egg-like formation was found in one of the mummies, which further provoked mystery lovers. However, scientists are skeptical of these claims. Earlier, in 2017, Moissan already presented findings that turned out to be the remains of ancient children, not aliens. To confirm or refute the truth of the new claims, serious research will be needed. Until then, this discovery remains a subject of debate between ufologists and the scientific community. Chinese emperors stole. Chinese emperors believed that jade could grant immortality, so they bequeathed that they be buried in special suits made of jade plates fastened with gold threads. Ancient chronicles mention such burials, but for centuries, no one found any evidence of their existence. Many believed that it was just a myth. Everything changed in 1958 when soldiers blasting a rock to build a bomb shelter near Mount Lingshan accidentally discovered an intact 2,000-year-old tomb of Liu Sheng, ruler of the Western Han Dynasty, and his wife, Du Wan. These tombs turned out to be real underground palaces filled with tens of thousands of relics, weapons, vessels, and even jade incense burners. The most amazing discovery was two burial suits made of jade preserved in perfect condition. Liu Sheng's costume consisted of 2498 jade plates connected with 1,100 grams of gold thread, and his wife had 2160 plates and 700 grams of thread. These outfits completely repeated the outlines of the bodies, including face masks. The tradition of such costumes was explained not only by the symbolic but also magical role of jade. In ancient China, jade was considered the embodiment of purity and durability. It was revered as a sacred material. According to beliefs, it could protect the body from decomposition. Particular importance was attached to the 9 openings of the body: eyes, ears, nostrils, mouth, genitals, anus, which were closed with jade plugs to ensure immortality. However, discoveries showed that the theory was not justified. Jade suits did not protect the bodies from decomposition. Why are such finds so rare? The answer is simple: looting. Even before the advent of archaeology, jade was incredibly valuable. Tomb robbers hunted for it for centuries. Tombs were burned, suits were dismantled, and jade slabs were sold or melted down. Over time, the looting became so widespread that in 222, Emperor Wen of Wei issued an edict banning the use of jade suits. He put an end to a 400-year-old tradition, acknowledging that immortality in this form was impossible. Although the idea seems grand, the end of the tradition was both tragic and ironic. Emperor Wen was determined enough to stop this vicious cycle. And perhaps it is thanks to this ban that we were able to see authentic jade suits centuries later. Place where you can find a UFO. American scientist, professor at Northeastern University Brian Helmuth, claims that the search for alien life on Earth should start with the ocean. In his opinion, the oceans and seas hide many mysteries, and people have only a superficial idea of their depths. Helmuth, not being a specialist in the field of UFOs but having knowledge of oceanology, believes that something related to extraterrestrial civilizations can be hidden underwater. I will add that oceanographer Paula Bontempi recently joined a special NASA commission for the study of unidentified objects. Earlier, NASA announced the appointment of a new head of UFO research, Mark McInerney, who previously represented the organization in the Pentagon. This emphasizes the seriousness of the approach to the study of this phenomenon. Copper object. This mysterious artifact made from a single piece of copper alloy puzzles researchers and collectors. The object, rather crudely cast with visible defects, has a head in the shape of a rectangular prism which narrows on all sides to a sharp edge. The handle, smoothly rounded at the end, shows no traces of blows, which indicates that it was not used for striking in the usual sense. Interestingly, the edges of the head previously had parallel lines and scratches that have worn off over time. This may indicate repeated use of the artifact, possibly in the process of cutting, grinding, or scraping. The estimated dating of the artifact varies between 5,000 and 10,000 years, but the exact origin remains unclear. Some researchers hypothesize that this object could have been used for ritual purposes or as part of an unknown technological device. Alternative history proponents believe that such artifacts could have been part of ancient, highly advanced tools created using technology beyond the capabilities of ancient metallurgists. UFO landing pad. Gary Dixon, 62, from Flint, Wales, was driving to Llangollen when he was caught by a 15-meter white circular disc slowly rotating on the surface of the River Dee in Denbighshire. He was so intrigued by this unusual object that he decided to walk a few kilometers to study it closer. The disc was perfectly round and rotated counterclockwise, creating the impression of a mysterious natural phenomenon. Gary, who was planning to spend a winter day in Llangollen, was so fascinated by what he saw that he stayed to watch it for about half an hour. According to his observations, the disc made one rotation per hour. Ice discs, as it turns out, are not uncommon. This natural phenomenon is observed all over the world, from Russia and China to Scandinavia and North America. The first recorded sighting of an ice disk was in 1895 in the USA on the Mianus River in Connecticut. In recent years, such natural formations have attracted attention due to their impressive size. For example, in January 2019, a 100-meter wide ice disk was discovered on the Presumpscot River in Maine. But an even more impressive case occurred in Canada, where a giant rotating disk with a diameter of 200 meters was spotted on the Tahltan River, which was captured by satellite lenses. These unique ice formations have received different names: ice circles, frying pans, and carousels. Knossos board game. The rules of this game have been lost to time, and to this day, no one knows how it was played. This artifact was discovered during excavations of the Palace of Knossos by British archaeologist Arthur Evans. Knossos, located on the island of Crete, is considered one of the oldest cities in Europe, and the game found dates back to around 1600 BC. Made of precious materials such as ivory, crystal, glass, gold, and silver, the game was not only an expensive pastime, but also perhaps a symbol of the high status of its owner. Archaeologists suggest that the game could have been used not only for entertainment, but also for rituals or divination. Some researchers even hypothesize that the complex patterns on the board may contain astronomical or mystical elements, which is of interest to supporters of the theory of the alien origin of ancient knowledge. Perhaps this mysterious board game once helped people communicate with higher powers or even with extraterrestrial civilizations. Buddha wheels and devil's carousels. Marine bioluminescence, a phenomenon in which some marine life emits light, has been known for a long time. For example, some types of plankton are capable of creating light bright enough to be noticed by the human eye. This phenomenon is often associated with observations of a glow on the surface of the water or just below it. However, in addition to scientific explanations, there are also more mystical stories about mysterious circles on the water. These glowing rings are called Buddha wheels or devil's carousels. Interestingly, the former ones, according to one version, were so named by Eastern sailors and the latter by Europeans. The Chinese considered such phenomena to be favorable omens, while Europeans, in particular Christians, perceived them as a bad omen. Note how people in the West and East, observing the same natural phenomenon, interpret it completely oppositely. At the same time, despite the popularity of these stories, there is not a single official documented evidence of such phenomena. Perhaps the mysterious glowing circles are associated with marine plankton, which creates a bright glow in the darkness of the ocean. It is also worth noting that such stories about Buddha wheels and devil's carousels are often reflected in folklore, but so far remain only part of myths and legends, not confirmed by factual data. Scientists melt 46,000-year-old ice. Scientists have made a stunning discovery by reviving an ancient nematode that was frozen in Siberia for 46,000 years. The microscopic worm, identified as Panagrolamus colimensis, was found 40 meters underground where it had been dormant since the earliest cave paintings were made. After being thawed, the nematode came back to life, began feeding on bacteria in the lab and reproducing asexually, then leaving a new generation for further study. The nematode's ability to survive in extreme conditions rivals better-known species such as Caenorhabditis elegans, which can survive desiccation and produce a sugar called trehalose that protects against dehydration. This discovery could open up new horizons in understanding biological processes of survival and evolution, suggesting that species can survive in extreme conditions for thousands of years and even revive after a long period of dormancy.
If scientists can implant the abilities of these living creatures into humans, we will actually be able to travel in time, since humanity will be able to put people into a state of suspended animation and awaken them in the distant future after tens, hundreds, or thousands of years. Life in a meteorite. Researchers studying a meteorite found on the island of Sri Lanka have said that it is not just a rock fragment from outer space, but a potential artifact of extraterrestrial origin. The analysis revealed the presence of fossils of microscopic algae, which, according to scientists, may be evidence of the panspermia hypothesis, the idea that life is spread throughout the universe via asteroids and comets. These discoveries have attracted widespread interest as they could support the theory of the existence of life beyond Earth. However, the results have been criticized by the scientific community. Some experts argue that the fossils found are too similar to terrestrial microorganisms living in fresh water. The possibility of contamination of the meteorite by terrestrial life forms during its stay on the surface of the Earth also remains a serious argument against the hypothesis of extraterrestrial origin of the find.
Alien visitors in Egypt. Recent archaeological excavations in Egypt have led to a sensational discovery that has attracted the attention of the entire world. Archaeologists have found artifacts in the Giza Plateau area that, according to some scientists, may be evidence that aliens visited Earth 5,000 years ago. It all started with excavations in a recently opened tomb dating back to the Old Kingdom of Egypt. Among the items found, metal plates with mysterious symbols and images of flying objects that resembled modern UFOs stood out. An analysis of the artifacts showed that they were covered in writing in an unknown language. Some scientists suggest that this could be a message from aliens, which the ancient Egyptians could have perceived as contact with another civilization. Linguists are already working to decipher these symbols, but the results remain unclear. Attention was also drawn to the images of unidentified flying objects on the plates, which, according to ufologists, could be a diagram of an alien ship. It seems to me that so far the researchers have made a lot of hasty conclusions, and most likely the interpretation of these plates will be more down to earth. Therefore, it is better to wait until the study of these artifacts is completed and find out what symbols are depicted and why they were there. Nuragic bronze figurines. These figurines with horned helmets shed light on mysterious people whose origins are still controversial. In the 12th century BC, the Mediterranean faced a catastrophe: the invasion of the so-called Sea Peoples, who united to attack the major civilizations of the Bronze Age. These warlike peoples, described by the Egyptian pharaoh Ramses III, attacked such great powers as Ugarit, the Hittites, Cyprus, the Canaanites, and even the mighty Egypt. It is with their invasions that the Bronze Collapse is associated, the disappearance or weakening of many great states. One of the most mysterious tribes among the Sea Peoples are considered to be the Shurdans, or Shardana. In Egyptian images, they are depicted in horned helmets and armor. However, the most interesting thing is the connection of this people with the island of Sardinia. In the Phoenician inscriptions on the Nora stone, Sardinia is referred to as Srdn, the same name used by the Egyptians to refer to the Shurdans. This theory is supported by the Nuragic bronze statues found on the island. They depict warriors with the same horned helmets as in the reliefs of Ramses III and armed with shields and swords. This raises the question, were the Shurdans originally from Sardinia, or did they settle on the island after their campaigns in the eastern Mediterranean? While historians continue to study the artifacts, this mystery remains unsolved and gives rise to many hypotheses about the role of the Shurdans in the disappearance of Bronze Age civilizations. Rebitters and bioducks. If it seems that the sound anomalies associated with marine UFOs were recorded only by American sailors, then this is not so. Soviet submariners also encountered similar mysterious phenomena. In the 1970s, the crews of Soviet nuclear submarines detected strange sounds reminiscent of the croaking of frogs, which quickly spread in the waters of the North Atlantic, especially in areas controlled by NATO. These sounds were so unusual that they became the subject of numerous discussions and hypotheses. The sounds recorded by the acoustics of Soviet submarines almost always accompanied them and moved at an amazing speed, up to 150 knots. However, active sonar did not record any objects that could be the source of these noises. It was assumed that these sounds came from something too small to detect or were even living creatures. For several years, scientists tried to figure out the nature of these strange rebitters, putting forward various theories. from unexplored phenomena occurring in submarine nuclear reactors to vibrations at the boundary of water layers with different temperatures and salinities. However, the Soviet Academy of Sciences put forward a more likely explanation. The sounds were biological in nature and could come from whales or unknown deep-sea mollusks. Submariners, in turn, did not agree with this, believing that the rebitters were too different from any known sea creatures. Over time, a more realistic version appeared, proposed by skeptics. According to this theory, the submariners mistook the sounds of active buoys dropped from NATO anti-submarine aircraft for the ribitting. These devices, equipped with water-filled power sources, could produce noises similar to croaking. This version explains why rebitters were most often recorded in areas of active NATO patrols and why this anomaly disappeared after the collapse of the USSR. Sailors of the Royal Navy of Great Britain, in turn, recorded similar noises, which they called bioducks, from the English onomatopoeia of quacking. These sounds were recorded in the waters around Australia, where in the 1960s, the most important nuclear testing grounds for the British fleet were located. Since patrols in these waters by the USSR or the USA were unlikely, the British also initially associated these sounds with marine life. It took scientists more than 50 years to establish the source of the bioducks. It turned out that the strange sounds are made by southern minke whales, whales that, before a deep dive, unexpectedly make this sound. Minoan snake goddess. The most famous symbol of the Minoan civilization remains a mystery. One of the most recognizable symbols of all Minoan culture is the snake goddess, yet archaeologists still know little about her. Given her popularity, you might think that scientists would have a good understanding of this artifact by now. But since her discovery in 1903, there has been ongoing debate about who or what she represents. Dating to around 1600 BC, this faience figurine is rare in Minoan art, making it even more mysterious. Some archaeologists believe that she represents a goddess who is the patron of animals, while others believe that the woman depicted on the figurine has nothing to do with snakes at all. It is believed that the snakes in her hands are actually ropes and that the statue itself was significantly restored by Arthur Evans, which has led to many misconceptions and misinterpretations. Eclipse battle. Imagine two kings who've been waging a bitter war for 5 years, losing their soldiers but seeing no end to the confrontation. And suddenly, when the sky, filled with the sounds of battle, darkens, a solar eclipse occurs. At this moment, the warriors on both sides freeze, lower their weapons, watching in amazement as a natural phenomenon eclipses human rage. The kings decide to declare a truce. This event became known as the Battle of the Eclipse, written about by the Greek historian Herodotus. In 585 BC, on the Halys River in Asia Minor, where the Lydians led by King Alyats and the Medes led by Cyaxares fought, an eclipse occurred that was predicted in advance. Historians believe that it was the Greek astronomer Thales of Miletus who predicted it. This eclipse, which was the first in history to be predicted by a human, has generated a lot of controversy. Predicting a solar eclipse is a difficult task. However, calculations have shown that the eclipse did indeed occur in 585, but not on Thales' supposed date of May 18, 584. Some believe that Thales could have used data from previous observations, but his accuracy is questionable, especially in light of the lack of astronomical instruments and records from that time. Historians also argue about the details of the battle. For example, Pliny only mentions the king of Lydia in his work, while the name of the Median ruler is questionable. In any case, despite these controversial points, the Battle of the Eclipse remains an important historical event. As a result of the eclipse, a truce was concluded, and the Halys River became the border between the two warring states. Stationary underwater objects. There are many stationary anomalous objects hidden in the oceans that still remain a mystery to scientists. Even if we put aside myths such as the legends of Atlantis, the list of interesting finds is still impressive. One of the most famous is the Inagui Monument, located near the Ryukyu Islands, not far from the Japanese Yonaguni. These are stone structures located at a shallow depth that have regular geometric shapes. Despite the fact that most scientists consider them to be a natural geological formation, many researchers and pseudo-archaeologists are trying to prove that these stones are the result of human activity. Another mystery is the megalith found at the bottom of the Gulf of Pantelleria Vecchia in the Tunisian Strait. This is a huge stone 12 meters long and weighing 15 tons, in which there are 3 round holes. Based on its structure, it is assumed that it was processed by man in the Mesolithic, about 15,000 years ago. However, rock analysis showed that its age could be much higher, more than 40,000 years, which casts doubt on its origin. The Cuban underwater city is another mysterious discovery made in 2001 off the west coast of Cuba. With the help of sonar, geometric structures resembling pyramids and rings consisting of granite blocks were discovered. These findings raised a lot of questions among researchers, as they could be both natural formations and the result of human activity. These and other objects remain the subject of active research and discussion because their origin can reveal a lot of unknown things about ancient civilizations and the nature of the ocean depths. Alien ship fragments in the ocean. A renowned Harvard University astrophysicist, Avi Loeb, who gained popularity for his UFO research and possible contacts with aliens, reported the possible discovery of alien ship fragments on the ocean floor. Loeb became famous for his theory about the unusual nature of the asteroid Oumuamua, which accelerated and deviated from the expected trajectory for no apparent reason in 2017, which led the scientists to suggest its artificial origin. Recently, Loeb drew attention to a meteorite that fell into the Pacific Ocean in 2014. The object, known as IM-1, was distinguished by an unusual speed of movement. The scientist went to the site of its fall and, together with his team, extracted fragments from a depth of 1,700 meters. As a result, they discovered about 50 small balls consisting of iron, magnesium, and titanium, about 0.3 millimeters in size. Loeb and his colleagues suggest that these spherules may be evidence of an alien spacecraft crash landing on Earth. However, many scientists are skeptical of his hypothesis, arguing that such fragments with such a composition may be the result of natural processes that occur when meteorites fall into the atmosphere and onto the ocean floor. A call from aliens. Humanity has been sending signals into space for decades, hoping to establish contact with alien civilizations. But what if Earth ever receives a response? If scientists manage to detect signs of extraterrestrial life, then most likely the first to know about it will be specialists from the SETI, Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence, program. This project began its work back in 1959 when scientists began to study signals from space. Today, powerful computers are used to analyze a huge number of radio signals, tracking any unusual patterns. According to Seth Shostak, SETI's chief astronomer, even if a signal from aliens is detected, it will not lead to panic. All the results will be confirmed by other telescopes and the whole world will definitely know about it. In the end, the news of such a discovery will instantly spread through the media and social networks. Although previous attempts to contact aliens have resulted in false alarms, scientists believe it is important to prepare for real contact. But the question of how to respond to aliens remains open. It will require international cooperation, and the main language of communication, according to scientists, will be mathematics. Professor Paul Davis from Arizona State University leads a team working on a response. It is believed that aliens may simply send a signal to say, "Hello, Earthlings, we are here." But how to express the essence of human life or our values using mathematics remains a challenge. Ancient chemical weapons. Archaeologist Simon James from the University of Leicester has presented the results of his research, which could change our understanding of the use of chemical weapons in ancient times. He claims to have found evidence of the use of poisonous substances in 256 AD, during the siege of the Roman city of Dura Europos on the banks of the Euphrates River. James's research focused on excavations carried out in this ancient city, which was besieged by the Persian army. In one of the tunnels dug by the Romans to prevent the enemy from advancing, the remains of 20 soldiers were found. These men died while standing in their passages, and James proposed the theory that the use of chemical weapons could have caused their deaths. Traces of bitumen and sulfur crystals were found in the tunnel, substances that emit toxic fumes when burned. According to the scientists, the Persians could have installed a brazier in their tunnel, placing these materials on it. When the Romans breached the wall, deadly fumes began to leak out, killing all the city's defenders within minutes. Despite the use of chemical weapons, the Persian army was unable to breach the city's walls through the mines. However, Dura Europos was captured, and the methods by which the Persians managed to do so remain unclear. Stone tools in Dagestan. Archaeological finds have been made in Dagestan that significantly expand our understanding of the ancient history of mankind. The main objects of the study were the ancient sites of Mukkai I and Mukkai II, located along ancient riverbeds. Stone tools dating back millions of years were found here. The finds at the Mukkai I site attracted particular attention. Among them were flat picks, double-sided choppers, and other tools similar to those found at the Ainikab I site. These finds date back to the period 1.95–1.78 million years ago, which makes them some of the most ancient in Russia. The tools found at Mukkai I indicate a high level of technology among ancient people. They used stone chips to create chopping and cutting tools. However, unlike similar finds in East Africa, no hand axes were found here, which may indicate unique technologies typical of this part of the world. Of interest are also giant tools weighing 5–6 kilograms, which according to scientists were used to split bones and skulls to extract bone marrow. Such tools are found at sites where ancient people cut up trophies. Kryptonite on Earth. Jadeite, a mineral discovered in 2006 in Serbia, attracted attention due to its striking similarity to kryptonite, the fictional substance that weakens Superman. The chemical composition of jadeite is almost identical to the kryptonite described in the film Superman Returns, including sodium, lithium, borosilicate, and hydroxide. However, unlike its fictional counterpart, jadeite does not contain fluorine, which gave kryptonite its famous green glow. This is why jadeite is white. The discovery of this mineral has attracted great interest from both scientists and science fiction fans, becoming an example of how fiction sometimes intersects with reality. Jadeite was found exclusively in the Jadar River Valley in Serbia and is of interest due to its high lithium content, which is used in the production of batteries. The sculpted rocks of Rothenef. In 1879, in the small town of Châteauneuf-de-Gallour in southeastern France, a postman began building a unique palace that would last 33 years. This fantastic palace, known as the Palais Cheval, was a true work of art created without great expense or specialized training. About 15 years later, on the other side of France, in Brittany, the priest Adolphe-Julien Fouéré, later nicknamed the Cheval of Breton, began creating stunning sculptures. He was ordained a priest in 1863, but after losing his hearing in 1894, he retired. He settled in the small village of Rothenef, where he began working in the art brut genre, art created outside of official culture. Fouéré created hundreds of wooden sculptures from 1894 to 1907, including totem poles, figures of saints and political figures, animals, and mythological creatures. However, his most notable work was the more than 300 sculptures carved into the granite cliffs of the Emerald Coast. These brightly colored figures and bas-reliefs depict fantastical characters, historical events, and mythology, from saints and explorers to majestic figures like Cleopatra and Napoleon. His works attracted thousands of tourists, and the city of Saint-Malo even built a tram line to cope with the influx of spectators. Unfortunately, in 1907, Fouéré suffered from paralysis, which limited his creativity. He died in 1910, but his works continued to attract attention. Today, these sculptures are in danger of deteriorating due to the effects of time and nature. UFOs in the Middle Ages. The Middle Ages are often thought of as an era of wars, diseases, and dark superstitions without electricity or other modern conveniences. However, this period also saw the birth of important advances, such as universities, the printing press, and the first books. Not only did these advances influence the development of science and education, but they also provided historical evidence, including unusual events in the sky that could be interpreted as UFO encounters. One such example is a news leaflet issued in April 1561 describing a mass sighting in Nuremberg. On April 14, 1561, at dawn, residents of the city witnessed a collision of various objects in the sky. Spheres, cylinders, and other strange shapes. These objects fought with each other, and then one of them, a large black triangle, appeared in the air. The event lasted for several hours but did not cause any harm to the townspeople. Some believe that these were mass hallucinations, others that it could have been a UFO collision. Such events are not limited to Nuremberg. In 1566, in Switzerland, in the city of Basel, similar phenomena were observed. Strange figures in the sky, reminiscent of combat between celestial objects. In 1665 in Berlin, fishermen witnessed a battle of airships, as well as a strange object reminiscent of a modern description of a UFO. These stories indicate that UFOs could be part of human mythology and were documented long before the 20th century. Mysterious disappearance at the lighthouse. A lighthouse is a place that invariably evokes a feeling of loneliness and anxiety. The story of the disappearance of 3 lighthouse keepers from the Flannan Islands has become a real mystical mystery, attracting the attention of lovers of unexplained events. It all began in 1900, when a helicopter crew was sent to Eilean Moor, part of the Flannan Islands, to check on the work of the lighthouse and its keepers, Thomas Marshall, James Duckett, and Donald MacArthur. When they arrived, they found that no one was there, as if the men had simply disappeared. An overturned chair was found inside the lighthouse. Untouched food was on the table, and the clock did not work. The ship's log reported that there was a strong storm in the area, but there were no reports of it in the surrounding areas. Based on this, it was assumed that the keepers died, carried away by the sea during their work, but the lack of traces of blood and other evidence gave rise to many mystical theories. Some believe that Eilean Moor Island has a sinister aura that affects people, causing them to lose their minds. Mysterious disappearances, lack of logical explanations, and strange details have made this story the basis for legends that speak of supernatural forces and even aliens. The lack of exact facts only fuels mystical theories, leaving more questions than answers. A terrifying find in Kuwait. A unique 7,000-year-old clay figurine reminiscent of aliens has been found in Kuwait, marking a major breakthrough in archaeology. The discovery was made at the Bara 1 archaeological site, which dates back to the 6th millennium BC. The figurine depicts a head with slanted eyes, a flat nose, and an elongated skull, which makes it similar to modern ideas about aliens. This discovery is the first of its kind in the Arabian Gulf region, although similar artifacts have previously been found in Mesopotamia. The figurine reflects the artistic traditions of the Ubaid culture, which was known for its unique ceramics and figurines. Interestingly, the figurine was made from Mesopotamian clay, not local ceramics, indicating cultural exchange. Ubaid art included the creation of figurines with symbolic meaning, and this discovery may help to understand the spiritual practices of ancient societies. The figurines may have been associated with religious rites or served as symbols of social status. And until science confirms the existence of guests from outer space, everyone decides for themselves about the nature of mysterious flying objects. Head of a humanoid creature. A couple from Switzerland found a strange head of a humanoid creature with big eyes and a long neck on the riverbank. Photos of the find were published on Reddit with the caption, "Found the head of an alien statue in the river." This post collected more than 61,000 likes and many comments. Although the head really does look like an alien, it was later revealed that this sculpture was made by students many years ago. One of them used silicone molds to create concrete sculptures and covered it with fluorescent paint. When the students moved away, the sculpture was lost or thrown into the river. The Vatican's alien archives. Ufologist Steve Bassett claims that the Catholic Church is hiding evidence of alien life in its archives and is calling on the Pope to reveal this information. In his opinion, the Church has long known about contacts with extraterrestrial civilizations, but is deliberately hiding it. Bassett cites several proofs. First, he noticed strange images in medieval paintings that, in his opinion, indicate the influence of UFOs, hares fighting knights, or trumpeters using their bodies in unusual ways, in his opinion, hint at alien intervention. Second, in 2011, Vatican astronomer Guy Consolmagno jokingly said that the Church is ready to baptize aliens if any are found. Bassett took this as a hint at the existence of a secret Vatican program to prepare for contacts with extraterrestrial beings. The ufologist's third piece of evidence is a claim by former U.S. intelligence officer David Grash that Italy discovered a UFO in 1933 and Pope Pius XII handed it over to the U.S. Bassett is calling on the public to demand that the Vatican show these archives to the world. He disappeared 100 years ago. The remains of a climber who disappeared on Everest in 1924 have been found. We are talking about Andrew Sandy Irvin, who tried to conquer the summit with George Mallory. Irvin's family did not know about his fate for a long time, and the discovery brought them relief. A crew filming a documentary for National Geographic came across a boot during the melting of the glacier. Experts assumed that it belonged to Irvine. Relatives lost hope that his tracks would be found. For them, Uncle Sandy has always remained a family hero about whom they spoke with trepidation. Irvine was only 22 years old, and it is believed that he had a camera with undeveloped film, which could have contained photographs from the summit. Now, Irvine's family has given a DNA sample to confirm the identity of the remains found. A sock found in a shoe had a name tag with his name on it, A.C. Irvine. Irvine and Mallory were last seen alive on June 8, 1924. Mallory's body was not discovered until 1999.
What was found inside the alien mummies? Mexican journalist and ufologist Jaime Maussan made a sensational statement about the alien mummies found in Peru. According to him, rare metals and alloys were found inside these bodies, which could serve as devices for intergalactic communication. One of these metals is osmium, a rare and very expensive element used in telecommunications and space technology. However, it is also known for its toxicity and danger to humans. Maussan suggests that the found devices could be something like mobile phones that aliens use to communicate with. It could be a communication device, although no one knows yet how it works. Osmium, which was discovered, is especially surprising. This metal is not only difficult to find, but also deadly. If someone wanted to create a fake, why would they put such a rare and toxic metal inside? Currently, the bodies of the aliens are being studied in laboratories, but many scientists are skeptical about these findings. According to them, the mummies could have been assembled from parts of various animals. Immortality of Greenland sharks. There has been an unexpected twist in the case of Greenland sharks, famous for their longevity, which may provide a clue to the mystery of longevity not only of these fish, but also of people. These sharks, which live in the cold waters of the Atlantic and Arctic seas, can live up to 500 years. One of the oldest sharks, which was born around 1624, is older than Peter the Great. Scientists from the University of Copenhagen determined its age using carbon dating. Despite the fact that Greenland sharks are rare due to their habit of living at depths of several hundred meters, scientists are actively studying them to understand the secret of their longevity. Previous studies have shown that a slow metabolism plays a key role. The pace of life theory suggests that life expectancy is directly dependent on the speed of metabolic processes in the body. However, recent data indicate the importance of habitat. Greenland sharks live in cold waters where the temperature can drop to minus 1.8 degrees Celsius. Living in such conditions slows down all chemical and biological reactions in their bodies, which may explain their immortality. In addition, they live in depths where there are practically no natural enemies except humans. Professor Holly Shields from the University of Manchester believes that the isolated environment also contributes to their longevity. The metabolism of these sharks remains stable throughout their lives, which is not typical for most animals. Scientists did not find significant changes in the metabolic activity of their muscle tissue with age. In the future, the study of shark tissue at the Arctic University of Norway should help to understand how climate change and pollution affect marine life in the long term. Alien homeland discovered. Scientists believe that the exoplanet LHS 1140b may have a breathable atmosphere and an ocean of liquid water. This planet was discovered back in 2014, but new research has revealed many secrets. LHS 1140b is called the Eye Planet due to its unusual appearance. It is located 48 light-years from Earth in the constellation Cetus and weighs 7 times more than our planet. Research using a NASA telescope has confirmed the presence of water and a nitrogen-rich atmosphere similar to Earth. However, the local sun is a tiny star, only 1/5 the size of our sun. It emits energy mainly in the red and infrared regions of the spectrum, so the planet is likely to be in semi-darkness. If there is vegetation there, it is most likely black in order to absorb as much light as possible. Recent studies have suggested that the planet could be either a mini Neptune made of gas or a mega-Earth covered in water. Scientists are inclined to believe that the planet is a water world with a rocky core. It is also believed to have a thick atmosphere and a stable climate. Astronomer Ryan McDonald from the University of Michigan noted that this is the first time we have seen a hint of an atmosphere on a rocky planet that could support life. We may have found evidence of air there. Advanced construction technology.
Archaeologists in Denmark have made a major discovery at a 5,000-year-old settlement. They have uncovered a stone-paved cellar, which shows a significant advance in ancient Scandinavian construction technology. The find was made at the Nygårdsvej 3 site, where the remains of several funnel beaker houses were also found. These houses had internal pillars supporting the roof, and the floors were likely made of a mixture of sand and clay, a material known as loam, which is still used today. The site was strategically chosen. It was located on high ground, which provided protection from flooding and a good view of the area. Around the underground stone structure, archaeologists also found about 1,000 artifacts, including flint tools, pottery shards, and sea urchin fossils. The researchers suggest that the underground structure served as a food storage facility thanks to its stable temperature. This could be one of the oldest cellars in Europe used as a refrigerator to preserve resources. If further research confirms this, the find will be important evidence of a technological leap in ancient Europe. Image of a car on an ancient temple. The Sagara Madu Temple, also known as Pura Dalam Jagaraga, is located in the north of Bali, 11 kilometers east of the city of Singaraja. The temple is located in the village of Jagaraga, known for the tragic event of 1849, when during the Dutch colonization there was a mass ritual suicide of local residents. The temple was originally built in the 12th century during the reign of King Raj Sri Aji Jagaraga, but was later destroyed during the Dutch invasion. Restoration of the temple began in 1865, and its current appearance has largely been preserved since then. The temple complex includes two temples, Pura Dalam, dedicated to Shiva, and Pura Prajapat, dedicated to Durga, reflecting their mythological roles as consorts in Hinduism. The walls of the temple are decorated with carvings depicting leaves, flowers, nagas, snake-like creatures, and human figures. Pura Dalam Sagara Madu is associated with rituals of death and destruction, as it is dedicated to Shiva. In the central courtyard, there is a carved gate called Paduraksa, decorated with the head of the mythical creature Bahoma, as well as pavilions for preparing offerings and performing rituals. This temple is unique in that its walls are decorated with scenes from the Western world, such as an airplane falling into the sea, a ship being attacked by a sea monster, and an antique car. Such images appeared because Singaraja was the main seaport of Bali in the 19th and 20th centuries, through which contact with European civilization took place. A prison born of nature and man. In 1881, a unique prison was built in the small mining town of Clifton, Arizona, which was called Impregnable. The town faced a problem. Convicted criminals were not sentenced to imprisonment but to work in the copper mines, but many of them simply escaped without working out their sentences. To avoid this, local authorities decided to create a prison from which it was impossible to escape. The prison was built directly into a granite rock. For its construction, they hired a mason, Margarito Varela, who, using a pickaxe and explosives, dug a tunnel in the rock leading to a cave. The cave was divided into two cells, one for especially dangerous criminals, the other for those who had committed less serious crimes. The cells had windows for air access, but they were located high, at a height of 3 meters. Varela installed heavy iron bars at the entrance, making the prison truly impregnable. Ironically, the prison's first inmate was its builder. After completing the work, Varela went to a local bar to celebrate, but got very drunk and started shooting into the air. The bartender, who was also a deputy sheriff, arrested him for disorderly conduct, and Varela ended up in the prison he had built. The prison operated until 1906, when a major flood forced the evacuation of the prisoners. The prison was subsequently abandoned, but was restored in 1929 and was designated a historic landmark in 1962. In 1990, the prison was added to the National Register of Historic Places. Unique musical instrument. Lviv archaeologists have discovered valuable finds dating back to the Neolithic era near Vinnytsia. It turned out that people lived here about 5,500 years ago. Excavations were carried out at an ancient fortified settlement on Mount Lisovka near the city of Vinnytsia. Representatives of the funnel-shaped pottery culture lived here. To study the settlement, scientists conducted excavations with a total area of 140 square meters. They discovered a clay pit, a place where clay was mined for making pottery and building houses.
Usually such clay quarries were located on the outskirts of settlements, but here the pit was found in the center, which changes the traditional idea of the layout. The pit was also used as a dump in which archaeologists found many fragments of pottery, animal bones, and tools. Another interesting find is an egg-shaped clay device with 2 clay balls inside. The egg was considered a symbol of life in all cultures and could be used for rituals, to ward off evil spirits, or to entertain children. In fact, it is a prototype of a musical instrument that produced sounds of a certain tonality. Ancient Pharaoh was a mutant. Scientists claim that the ancient Egyptian pharaoh Akhenaten may have been a hybrid of a human and an alien. Stuart Fleischmann, an associate professor of comparative genomics at the Swiss University in Cairo, and his team conducted a 7-year study of the DNA of 9 ancient Egyptian pharaohs. Their results could revolutionize our understanding of ancient history. The analysis used a polymerase chain reaction technique to obtain an accurate genetic profile of the pharaohs. Nothing unusual was found in 8 DNA samples, but the DNA of Akhenaten, who lived in the 14th century BC, showed significant anomalies. One gene, SEXPAC5, which is responsible for the growth of the cerebral cortex, was especially active in Akhenaten, which may explain his enlarged skull, a characteristic feature depicted in ancient Egyptian statues. The increased activity of this gene suggests that Akhenaten had a more developed brain. Scientists cannot explain how this mutation occurred because such changes in the human brain are unknown to science. This suggests that the ancient Egyptians may have been genetically manipulated by extraterrestrial beings. Additional data, such as an analysis of Akhenaten's bone tissue, also shows its unusual density. This may indicate enhanced brain development. Fleischmann says the results have been carefully checked and may serve as evidence that the ancient Egyptians may have had contact with extraterrestrial civilizations. Monumental settlement in Croatia. In the Croatian village of Storbec near Split, archaeologists have discovered the remains of a settlement that is around 3,500 years old. One of the key discoveries was an ancient Greek defensive wall more than 70 meters long, making it one of the best preserved Greek structures in Croatia. Storbec is located along the picturesque coast of Croatia, and the excavations were carried out on an area designated for construction. Archaeologist Marina Ugarkovic from the Institute of Archaeology emphasized that the wall reaches a depth of more than 3 meters in some places, making it truly monumental. This discovery is comparable to ancient archaeological finds around the world. During the excavations, other structures of the Apician settlement were also examined, dating back to various historical periods, from prehistoric times to antiquity and the early Middle Ages. The earliest finds discovered at the site date back to the Middle Bronze Age, indicating that the settlement existed long before the arrival of the Greeks. Our world is created by artificial intelligence. Professor Melvin Vopson from the University of Portsmouth has put forward a theory that we live in a computer simulation, and evidence for this can be found in the Bible. Vopson argues that the text of the Gospel of John supports this idea and hints that our reality is created by artificial intelligence, AI. The Gospel begins with the words, "In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God." Vopson believes that the Word is the code that runs the simulation. This code, in his opinion, underlies everything that exists. God in this concept is not a separate entity but part of the simulation, possibly an advanced AI that runs our universe. Another quote from the Gospel that Vopson refers to is, "All things were made through him, and without him was not anything made that was made." The scientist believes that this also confirms his hypothesis that the world was created through the Word, the code. The act of creation can be seen as a programming process that resulted in the creation of a simulated universe. The simulation theory can also explain how God was able to create the world in 6 days, as described in the Bible. If we imagine our world as a product of AI, then the launch of the simulation can happen very quickly. Thus, Vopson believes that his theory does not contradict religious views, but on the contrary, gives them a modern explanation. The scientist also points to the physical limitations that exist in our reality as possible signs of a simulation. For example, the limitations on the speed of light and sound can be the result of the work of the processor that controls the simulation. The laws of physics that govern the universe resemble complex algorithms, and elementary particles can be compared to pixels on a screen. Vopson considers symmetry present in nature, patterns of snowflakes, butterflies, and other objects, as another proof. He believes that this may be a way of saving resources used in the simulation to create the world. The simulation theory is supported not only by Vopson, but also by other famous people. Elon Musk, for example, has stated that the probability that we live in the base reality is extremely small, almost 1 in billions. He argues that our reality is most likely one of many simulations created by a more advanced civilization. Thus, the simulation theory offers a new view on the nature of the universe and the place of man in it. What did the ancestors of the Chinese look like? Archaeologists in China have for the first time reconstructed the faces of people who lived 5,000, 7,000 years ago during the Neolithic era in the Yellow River area. These ancient people belonged to the Yangshao and Longshan cultures, and their settlements were located on terraces along the river. For centuries, the Chinese have wondered what their ancestors looked like, and now they have an answer. During the fourth archaeological expedition to the Yangshao settlement, scientists analyzed the remains and reconstructed the appearance of two people. One lived about 5,600 years ago and was a man in his 40s. The other was a 50-year-old man from the Longshan era about 4,000 years ago. The facial reconstructions were made using 3D scanning, printing, and ancient DNA analysis. These technologies made it possible to recreate facial features with an accuracy of up to 90%. Yangshao is considered an important culture that had a significant impact on the development of Chinese civilization. During excavations, various artifacts were found, including ceramics, tools, and even alcohol residue. An important discovery was the large residential buildings that allow for a deeper study of ancient architecture.
We are pets on a giant farm. Humanity may not be the only intelligent species in the universe, but there is no evidence yet for the existence of alien life. One argument for their possible existence is the Drake equation, which suggests that there should be many extraterrestrial civilizations. Recently, a group of scientists modified this equation to include the number of exoplanets found and reduce the number of variables to 2, the number of habitable planets and the probability of intelligent life. The results showed that there could be billions of developed worlds, but the time frame for their existence was not taken into account. Astronomers from Columbia and Sydney universities have refined the equation, concluding that either the universe must be full of life or it is extremely rare. The Fermi paradox highlights this mystery. According to scientific evidence, intelligent life should exist, but we see no signs of it. One hypothesis that explains this paradox is the zoo hypothesis proposed by radio astronomer John Ball. He suggested that alien civilizations exist but deliberately avoid contact with humanity, observing us as exhibits in a zoo. They may want Earthlings to develop independently without outside interference. This approach is reminiscent of the situation with the Sentinelese, a people on an island in the Indian Ocean who refuse to contact the outside world, and others respect their choice. As in the case of the Sentinelese, alien civilizations may deliberately avoid interfering with our progress, observing our development from the outside. However, the zoo theory is subject to criticism. Some scientists believe that maintaining such a quarantine for millions of years is extremely difficult. Any single civilization could break these rules and make contact. Others argue that the moral principles of aliens may not coincide with ours, which makes the idea that they care about our development questionable. The Indian Titanic. The merchant ship SS Talawa was sunk on November 20, 1942, by a Japanese submarine in the Indian Ocean, 1,200 kilometers from the Seychelles. There were 958 people on board, including 732 passengers. The liner, which left Mumbai for Durban, was hit by 2 torpedoes and sank at a depth of more than 4,500 meters. Due to a shortage of lifeboats, 280 people died. The rest were rescued by ships of the British fleet. SS Talawa, nicknamed the Indian Titanic, was carrying a valuable cargo, 60 tons of silver intended for minting coins in the Union of South Africa. The value of the silver is estimated at $40 million, and the fate of this cargo remained unknown for almost 75 years. As a result of the deep-sea mission, the Argentum crew successfully raised almost all of the 2391 silver bars stored in the hold. The valuable metal was found in the ship's opium compartment. However, the ownership of the cargo was disputed, and the case went all the way to the UK Supreme Court. In 2023, the court ruled that the silver, worth $43 million, belonged to South Africa. 2 passengers from the ship are still alive today, Elvin Yani and Tej Prakash Mangat. Every year they gather for a reunion to honor the survivors. 188-year-old hermit. A mysterious 188-year-old hermit was recently found in a cave near Bengaluru. However, it turned out that the man known as Siaram Baba is actually no more than 109 years old, which is still quite old. A video of 2 people helping the emaciated old man move went viral online, causing many comments and debates about his real age. Siaram Baba was born in Mumbai and attended school until the 7th or 8th grade. He is a devout follower of the Hindu god Hanuman and has dedicated his entire life to spiritual practices. After meeting the saint, the old man left home and went to the Himalayas, where he devoted himself to penance and religious meditation. Siaram Baba renounced the benefits of civilization and lived in caves, covered only with a bandage, spending all his days reading sacred texts.
Wolf's Egg Artifact. In 1885, a worker named Rydell discovered a mysterious artifact about 60 million years old known as the Wolf's Egg iron. He found it in a block of brown coal at a foundry in Austria. This metal object embedded in the coal caused great surprise among the worker and his colleagues. They donated the find to the local museum. In 1886, geology professor Adolf Hurlt suggested that the artifact came from outer space. However, further research showed that the artifact did not contain nickel, chromium, or cobalt, ruling out a meteorite origin. In 1973, analysis by Dr. Hubert Matlianer showed that the artifact was made using the lost wax casting method, suggesting that it was artificially created. The artifact is a nearly cubic shape measuring 67 by 47 mm and weighing 785 grams, made of solid steel. Its edges were sharp and straight, indicating its machine origin. Some experts believe that it was a fragment of a much larger tool. The find gave rise to theories about the existence of an ancient advanced civilization on Earth millions of years ago. And although many thought it had disappeared, the artifact is still kept in the Heimathaus Museum in Vöcklabruck, but is no longer on public display. Released for the coronation. This vintage chocolate bar made by Rowntrees was originally packaged in a tin with portraits of King Edward and Queen Alexandra. Despite being 122 years old, the chocolate remains uneaten, making this a truly unique find. Auctioneum Limited valued the chocolate at £200. Chocolate was a real novelty in the early 20th century, and refusing such a treat must have been a difficult ordeal for the owner. The chocolate bar is still in its original wrapper, although it is definitely not recommended to try it. It attracts attention not only as a rare artifact, but also as a memento of the royal era. Edward VII, Queen Victoria's eldest son, ascended the throne in 1901 and reigned for 9 years. He was known for his love of French culture and gastronomy. Edward's reign also played an important role in strengthening Anglo-French relations, leading to the creation of the Entente in 1904.
UFOs in 1665. In April 1665, 6 fishermen witnessed a mysterious celestial phenomenon, an aerial battle over the Baltic Sea near Stralsund. As soon as evening fell, a dark gray disk appeared in the sky. The exhibition, UFOs 1,665 inches, reconstructs how this event was presented in the media of the time and shows that many of the communication strategies used to cover unexplained celestial phenomena are still relevant today. The central event of this exhibition was the aerial battle on April 8, 1665. The fishermen saw flocks of birds turning into ships that fought in the sky. Ghostly figures scurried about on the decks. Soon, a flat disc appeared over the church of St. Nicholas, and the fishermen fled in fear. The next day, they complained of trembling and body pain. The media of the time spread the news at lightning speed, offering different versions of the event. In an era when religion played a huge role, people believed that this phenomenon was a sign sent by God. At the time, no one knew that the fishermen may have witnessed an atmospheric reflection of a naval battle over the horizon. From antiquity to modernity. Archaeologists, studying an ornament found in a 5th century female burial, discovered its unexpected similarity to a charivari, a traditional Bavarian accessory. This decorative element, consisting of coins, keys, and amulets, had a symbolic meaning and could reflect the status of the owner. During excavations in Bavaria in 2016, an unusual collection of objects combined into one accessory was found in the burial of a young woman from the 5th century. The set included 2 bronze keys, a case for a bone needle, bronze rings, 3 Roman coins with holes, a decorated walnut pendant, and other interesting artifacts. These objects, attached to leather straps, reminded researchers of elements of charivari, a type of jewelry known in Bavarian culture. The find attracted the attention of scientists, as it may indicate the ancient roots of charivari. The accessory likely symbolized status or cultural identity. After restoration, experts recognized it as an important element of late antique culture on the borders of the Roman Empire. Gold jewelry from space. Amid the glittering gold and treasures of Iberia's Bronze Age, 2 unassuming-looking objects may be the most valuable of all. A corroded bracelet and a rusty, hollow hemispherical object decorated with gold turned out to be more than just metal artifacts. Researchers have discovered that they were forged not from metal mined from the earth, but from iron from meteorites that fell from the sky. The discovery, published in January, shows that metalworking technology in Iberia more than 3,000 years ago was far more advanced than previously thought. The so-called Treasure of Villena, a collection of 66 gold objects, was found in 1963 in Alicante, Spain. It is considered one of the rarest examples of Bronze Age jewelry in the Iberian Peninsula and all of Europe. However, the true age of the collection was difficult to determine, mainly due to 2 artifacts: a hollow hemisphere, probably part of a scepter or sword hilt, and a bracelet. These objects had an iron appearance, which raised questions among archaeologists. The Iron Age in the Iberian Peninsula did not begin until around 850 BC, while the gold materials in the treasure date back to the period 1500 to 1200 BC. However, it turns out that the iron did not necessarily have to come from terrestrial ores. Some Bronze Age artifacts, including Tutankhamun's famous iron dagger, were made of meteoric iron, which was highly prized in ancient times. After conducting mass spectrometry analysis of samples of the artifacts, the results showed that both objects were made of meteoric iron, solving the mystery of their origin. Rate the video with a thumbs up or down and subscribe to the channel. Thank you for watching this video to the end. Bye everyone.